Alrighty, folks, welcome on in to the Central Committee stream with your host Mike from PA. We are back. We are live. Welcome on in. Ollie, I love the song, but at this point, it was created in the context of being like, come on, Joe Biden, don't be a bad person. And yeah, that context is a little different now. And it's like, oh no, yeah, they're always going to be bad people. Joe Biden is a really bad person. Welcome, chat. Welcome on in. How is everybody doing today? Do I still feel like the vibes are shifting in a good direction? Yes, but also no. The reason why there is fighting on the streets is because people are fighting back, which is part of the larger vibes. It's part of the larger vibes, which is like people are taking things into their own hands to try to stop fascism, well, because the liberal institutions have completely failed. Did you see that Hassan was shot at yesterday? Yeah, let's take a look.
I think they're gonna push in from this side of the road. Oh, fuck. That fucked my hair up.
I'm the exact same way under stress. If something is like that happens, I'd laugh too.
Anyway.
And as you can see, the protesters were not violent. All the violence was coming from the cops, as usual, right? The cops went out there for the purpose of trying to attack people for whom were protesting the government. And it's just really pretty standard stuff. Whenever you see protests that look like they've escalated into violence, 99% of the time, unless they're right-wingers celebrating a sports victory or something, 99% of the time, violence was initiated by the cops. But Mike, they burned some cars. Is that not the worst kind of violence? I think there is a lot of people don't recognize that just because somebody is wearing plain clothes doesn't mean they are part of the movement. We found the same thing in the George Floyd protests. The famous, police precinct catching on fire and burning down. The person who did it was a right-wing libertarian trying to ignite a race war. Now, it doesn't mean that the burning of the police station wasn't, understandable in that context, but the truth of the matter is that a right-wing provocateur did it, or at least started it. So whenever I see damaged property, just assuming that this is representative of some protest movement is pathetic. We used to have a saying here, !brick. I don't know if they removed, I don't know if the mods moved it. They did. A very famous quote. It's fuck, I can't. God, man, I used to have a really good quote that would basically talk about how capitalists could see thousands of deaths of innocents and not care. Oh, here it is. How the fuck could I not find this? Google searches are getting worse. The bourgeois of the whole world, which looks complacently upon the wholesale massacre after the battle, is convulsed by horror at the desecration of brick and mortar. Like, this is the reality. Like, there is millions of people dying in Gaza. Ho hum. Oh my God! An automated car caught on fire. Oh my God! The property damage. The city is burning down. Somebody told me that Minneapolis burned down in 2020 yesterday. Somebody told me that Minneapolis burned down yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Megan McCain wrote, I learned in 2020, and it will stay with me for the rest of my life, is liberal cities and progressive leaders will let their cities burn to the ground. Let small businesses be destroyed. Allow abject destruction. And they don't give a shit. I will never forget this about them. What city burned down, you dumb lump of shit? Like, this is what conservatives think about 2020. And I can tell you, as somebody who spent time all over the world in these cities, there was a small handful of property damage in the cities when the cops forced riots by attacking peaceful protests. There was small property damage. I mean, like what happened in Texas when the power grid went out because it got cold in the winter did about a quadrillion times more damage than all of the protests in 2020. We're talking about basically nothing in the scale of the protests. It was fucking nothing. And so I asked the question, what city burned down? Minneapolis, St. Paul. Half of destroyed businesses in the 2020 George Floyd riots remain closed vacant today. Chat, if there are 2 businesses that are damaged in the riots and one of them closes, that means half of them have closed. This is a meaningless phrase that sounds important, but it actually isn't. You know what happens with small businesses a lot? They fail a lot. I think it's something like, what percentage of restaurants fail within 5 years? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I said, and this is an article that came out this week. Minneapolis is one of the world's happiest places. Minneapolis ranked among the world's happiest cities for 2025. So wait a minute. I thought it's burned down, but goddamn, they're so happy. They loved being burned down. Like, this is what people think? Like, you are dumb as fuck. Some of the neighborhoods, yes. It's really sad because the neighborhoods that lost out needed those businesses and jobs the most. No, this is, by the way, this is a racist trying to like veil their stuff. Be like, haha, the black neighborhoods burned down. But there was nothing got burned down. It's like, guys, I saw a Target get looted. I saw a Wendy's burn down, and I saw a cop building burn down. And there was a couple fire that, you know, that's it. And so people rioted a couple like convenience stores. Like, this is just nonsense. What neighborhoods? What neighborhoods? You delusional freak. It's like actually insane. People say stuff like these cities burned down. Nothing burned down.
When criminal acts occur, the LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Okay, guys, this guy's really resisting really hard, guys. This guy's resisting really hard. This played on split screen while Washington police tell us how the LAPD are our friends. Yeah, fascist fucks. I'm going to take a shot each time I hear that Minneapolis burned to the ground over the next 4 years. I've legitimately had angry Trump people on Reddit tell me the city burned down. I point out that it didn't. They argue that, okay, not all of it, but a bunch, a huge chunk. And I'm like, dude, I'm not basing my responses on WAPO articles from 2020 or some shit. I've lived here for 30 years. I can look out my window and there it all is. They tend to never believe me, which I guess is fine. Crazy MAGA cult fascists can stay away from our beautiful city and I'll never be happier. Hey, that might explain why they're the happiest city in America. It might explain why Minneapolis is the happiest city. All the fascists thought it burned down, so they never go. There were objectively a lot of fires and vandalization of buildings relative to the norm, or even other protests in the last 50 years. I remember driving to work the morning after the first rough night, and a giant ass plume of smoke coming off South Minneapolis. This could be as little as one car. You're stupid. You're fucking stupid. More than 100 buildings were burned or damaged. If a single window was broken or a single piece of spray paint, that's called damaged. Like, this is what's so funny about this shit. I'm not saying that the riots did no damage, but what I am saying is there's a far cry from, hey, some windows were broken and there was some spray paint and 1 or 2 buildings burned down and it was really smoky, to the entire city burned down. Is it okay to earn rental income from an ICE holding facility? I think the New York Times having this ethicist is the funniest fucking thing in the planet. We're all entangled in systems we can't control. Here's the liberal answer. As citizens, we're already implicated in the actions of government agencies that act in our name that we help fund. If those actions are shameful, then they cast a shadow on all of us. But that shared entanglement also opens the door to shared responsibility and response. You mentioned your Jesuit university. You'll probably remember that the emphasis placed on discernment. Wait a minute. You're not allowed to use the phrases that I use. You're not allowed to use the education that I use to do evil. Not just abstract moral reasoning, but the habit of examining one's own position in the world with clarity and courage and then acting on that understanding. So if that's what control, if this money feels tainted, redirect it. He's like, donate to charity. That'll help you feel better. Oh my God. Oh my God, dude. We are liberals, man. Okay, so that reminds me, and good morning, everybody. I didn't do the rundown. Happy Monday. It's June 9th, 2025. We're going to be talking about the LA protests. Let me bring these up that are now raging over the ICE raids.
David, what's happening where you are right now?
What a king.
It looks like
also, Google breaking Chrome and forcing me to change browsers is fucking annoying. Also, I've seen this stupid crying shit a million times on YouTube. I've seen this fucking ad. Is this the only ad they have? I've seen this fucking single tear going down this guy's face like 50 fucking times.
Road is clearing up ahead. Would you like to take control?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we are back with our continuing coverage of breaking news from California. Massive protests blocking downtown LA's Highway 101. LA police have now declared an
Anyway, okay. Journalists were attacked on the streets of LA. Greta Thunberg was, the Israelis saw a distraction on American news, so they went ahead and kidnapped Greta Thunberg, which I knew they would do. I knew they would do this. This is how the Israelis actually operate. They wait for some news story in the American news, and then they go commit more crimes. This happens over and over and over again. Did you see the reformed haters come up to Hassan?
I don't think, I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Appreciate you for coming out here, bro. For real,
hey, on some real shit. I used to hate watching, bro, but you're out here talking you about it. Hey,
I used to hate watch, and now I'm an ICE protester. I mean, like, I actually like. That's why you don't usually see many hate watchers in our chats, like, who have been there for more than a second. Because if somebody sits down and starts watching our points and our arguments, they're going to change their mind. They're also going to see that we're not afraid to go right after Ethan Klein or Destiny or whoever else they claim is some sort of like difficult person to debate against or whatever. Like, what happened with the gray box? I don't know why that happened.
Hey, now I fuck with you. You're in my hood, dog. That's all right.
He's getting dapped up so much.
That's just to say, bro, you're one of my heroes, man. I watch your stream all the time, man.
This, by the way, chat, I want you to understand something. When I was watching this stream yesterday, off and on, I was like, I hope Hassan takes this moment to reflect on the reality that he's not being attacked by the ADL for no reason. He's being attacked by the ADL because he's important to the anti-Israel movement, the pro-Palestine movement, the pro-immigrant movement. They're attacking him because he's probably one of the most important voices in America at this point. He's not just a dumb Twitch streamer at this anymore. And I hope he feels the responsibility of that, and I hope he learns, and I hope he actually tries to affect politics in a more constructive and focused way. This has been true for 6 years. He is quite popular. He had over 75K eyes on his protest when I checked in. Yeah. Mike, what is this? This is just a Toby Turner. This is just a failed comedian with a bunch of botted followers who can't get any fucking engagement on his normal posts. 26 likes with 800,000 followers. You fucking loser, bot follower loser. When's the next time? Is Toby still go on tour? Does this guy still go on tour? 13 years ago. Oh, here's a video on hate speech. 6 million fucking subscribers, 20,000 views.
Hate speech should be illegal, cause a knife can cut you, but the pain from a word is just as real. At least a bullet goes through you. A word stays with you. Stays with you. Stays with you. Stays with you. All I want to say is hate speech. Hate speech. Hate speech. Hate speech. Say some hate speech. Why? Try. Hate speech.
This is the type of shit that used to do well on YouTube. This is the type of shit that used to do well on YouTube. Which reminds me, Baden Panada We may have to watch his newest video because it made me fucking laugh. And he had sexual assault allegations. Yeah, I was gonna say, wow, what a surprise. Sam Hyde fan is a rapist. Who could tell?
Lawful assembly. They have begun to disperse those that had gathered there and shut that highway down. Let's continue this conversation now with New York State Assembly member and New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Zohran, it's great to have you back on the show. We wanted to talk to you about what's happening here in New York City, but there's a through line between the protests that we saw yesterday and what is happening right now.
Yeah, Aggie, thank you for this link. This is exactly what I wanted to show. I think Zohran will win. Oh, did you catch up to me now? I think Zohran's a lock. Honestly. I think it's fucking Jover, dude. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe there'll be like massive protests in New York in the next week or two and Zohran will get blamed. Like, that's the only thing I could see as like a risk.
In Los Angeles, two major cities in America, the two largest cities, two cities that rely heavily on immigrant populations, diverse immigrant populations, undocumented immigrant populations. How are you reacting to what?
Mike, just because someone agrees with you doesn't mean they got their take from you. I will say that, like, one of the things that's really interesting is I obviously don't think that everyone is stealing my takes, but when I am one of the first people to say something and then people start coming into my chat to say it like they are surprising me, it is interesting. Right? Because it's like, no, I've been saying that. I was the first guy to say that. So you're like telling me a take that I've had before you. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. Also, like, Zohran's campaign just proves everything I've been saying about electoralism completely correct. If you want to be popular, have straightforward, bold policies and be a happy warrior. He's literally my ideal candidate. And he came out of nowhere. He was a nobody. I mean, I knew who he was because of why did I know who he was for years? Because I watched the Gravel Institute video on housing that he was a part of 5 fucking years ago. And I've had him on my radar since then because he knew how to handle social media. We've been talking about him forever.
What you're seeing play out in these cities and this dramatic escalation by the administration to deploy the National Guard and whether it could happen right here.
By the way, it's not because I'm the Zohran hipster, Krunkoffs. It's because when I see a politician who I like, who's acting in a way that I say will work, I want to show you how it works to be a bold, progressive guy. And it's just a demonstration of my analysis being correct, my political strategy being correct. And so we could use it to push it more. I think you guys really underestimate how much change we can actually make. I am not somebody with delusions of grandeur. I'm not saying that we're going to change the world ourselves or by ourselves. Alpaca Pete, thank you for the 10 tier 1s. By the way, chat, there is a massive discount going on right now this week. I think Twitch is trying to get some money. 35% off 5+ gift subs until 2014. Not 2014. 6/14. Oh my God, I need to drink more water. Do you think a happy warrior is more effective than someone who channels the energy of the people? I thought somebody that was angry would be more relatable. Zohran is angry. Zohran is angry, but he's angry at our enemies, not generically. He has a smile, but he also has, I think I just retweeted it. He's also got that other gear. Fuck, I might have. By the way, here's AOC. 2 Congress people are campaigning with him at Puerto Rico parade or Puerto Rico Day. I can't remember which one. Puerto Rican Day parade. It's both. Okay. All right. I guess I didn't retweet it. It is. Hold on. I actually might be on the video I was about to play.
You know, thank you again, Naaman, for having me here. It's a pleasure. And I think what we're seeing right now is authoritarianism. And what our city and every city needs is a leader who will look it in the eyes and not see a reflection of themselves. Because this isn't just an attack on immigrants who are being picked up by masked men in unmarked cars. This is an attack on the very essence of our cities and our states and our country. And we are seeing too many so-called leaders across this country who are sitting idly by as this takes place, when we know that Donald Trump never rewards concessions. He can only be defeated if you're willing to fight him. And that's the kind of fight we have to bring in this country in this moment, a fight that means in New York City, standing up for our sanctuary city policies, putting funding towards legal representation of New Yorkers who are in detention proceedings, knowing that when we do so, we increase the likelihood they'll be home with their family by 11-fold. And knowing that this isn't intellectual, this is something that is the difference between a New York City public high school student like Dylan being hundreds of miles away in an ICE detention facility or back home with his mother and his two siblings. Someone like Mahmoud Khalil, who today marks 3 months since he was arrested for no crime at all in his apartment building lobby and couldn't even witness the birth of his first child.
I want to get a bit more of if your mayor and our president were to bring the National Guard here, what you think you would actually be able to do. A lot of New Yorkers are aware of the fact that Mayor Eric Adams has not been shy about cozying up to Donald Trump. A lot of immigrants in this city are also very nervous. They're also wondering if they should continue to show up to appointments or to school or to doctor's appointments at this point. So I think they'd be looking to you and wondering what you would do as they look at these images. If this were to come to New York City, what do you imagine would be the decisions you would be making tonight and the message you'd be sharing with New Yorkers about how you'd keep them safe?
The message, first and foremost, is to recognize that immigrant New Yorkers are New Yorkers. And I say that as an immigrant myself. I came to this city and this country at the age of 7. It's the city that I fell in love with, the city where I got married, the city where I got my citizenship. And yet I know that just blocks away from where I got that citizenship, where I was sworn in, is today Federal Plaza, where immigrants are terrified to go for their regular.
Have I seen the Jubilee Palestine debate? No. Are you is that the one with Ethan Klein's Atlantic Council guy? Here's the thing. I have to say, chat, that I am being radicalized at light speed. I'm being radicalized at top speed. I wasn't truly a radical because I know what radical actually means. There's a quote from Zizek, where he talks about how if you give me power, I know how to use it. I'm scared almost of myself. That's how I feel. That's how I feel at this point. If you give me power, I know how to use it. This is back when Zizek was actually on his game. Now he's kind of been off his game for a while, but this is Zizek at the top of his game.
In the West, you don't seem very dangerous to me.
Here I must disappoint you. You know, I am this type of a Joker guy. I mean Joker from Batman, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I laugh and so on, but I can be a Stalinist. If you give me power, I know how to use it. That's why I'm afraid almost of myself. I don't want power. I'm extremely sensitive. It's beautiful that you were on time there.
Yeah.
You know, even in
I love how he delivered that and didn't let them follow up. No, I would say that I'm not a Stalinist because Stalinism is more about defending the revolution after it's won. I'm more of a Leninist or a yeah, I think Leninist. The only other person I can think of is a Robespierreist. That would be, I'm either a Leninist or a Robespierreist. I'm like one of the two. Not Pol Pot. No. Pol Pot is a CIA plant. The less charismatic Saw Gerrera. Oh yeah, brother. I wish I'd be huffing those fumes every day. I'm a universal health careist.
Their check-ins. And we know that the federal government has an immense amount of power to be able to inflict this kind of terror upon people across this country. And yet what we've seen from our current mayor is to build upon that power and allow the NYPD to often serve as accomplices to it. You know, there was a moment when a number of undocumented New Yorkers were being arrested at Federal Plaza, and the NYPD, the Strategic Response Group, was dispatched to then arrest New Yorkers who were observing that, including a pastor. This is the kind of practice I would bring to an end, because we need to make clear that sanctuary city policies, it's not only the law of this city, it's also something that's kept New Yorkers safe. And had we had those same policies in Maryland, Kilmar would never have actually been taken to El Salvador. These are the kinds of policies that keep families together. As the next mayor, I will not only build upon them, I will ensure 100% compliance with them.
So we've seen protesters in California try to organize peacefully. Apparently, some of our reporters have described some of the activity as unruly, but generally peaceful. What advice would you have to New Yorkers who also want to register their dissent, who want to register their dissent peacefully, but don't want to play into this narrative that Donald Trump seems eager to spin, that these are riots, that these are people who don't respect the law, who are interfering with federal operations.
I would encourage New Yorkers to use their First Amendment rights to peacefully protest if they are in opposition to what we all must oppose, which is an authoritarian administration looking to detain, disappear, and push out so many of the very people that we love and make this city and this country our home. And I would say that because also too often Democrats are worried about what Donald Trump will say about something. And so we retreat and allow there to be a void, when in fact, mayors of our cities, the mayor of New York City is considered to have the second largest bully pulpit in America. That's a bully pulpit that should be used to define the truth of what is happening and to push back on these horrific kind of narratives that are then used as the justification to disappear people hundreds of miles away.
Let me ask you really quickly, should ICE be abolished? I mean, you and I are old enough to remember when that was actually a policy proposal by people in this country on the left. We've seen the Biden administration previously increase funding.
Yeah, this is something that, before he goes on, I want to show you something, chat. Like, it was a post I made a couple days ago during the weekend. You know, the better the post, the less engagement. And what I mean by that is, the more important my post is as far as like analysis, the less engagement it is going to get, because people don't want to actually think. They want you to, you know, yell at people and say that they're shit, which I don't mind doing that. You know, I don't mind calling people scum. Boosting ICE funding is bipartisan. The more based he is, the more the reason he won't win the mayor's race. That's because you have cuck energy. See, you're so used to watching Democrats, so you have cuck energy, which you somehow believe that by being bold and making strong arguments, you're going to turn people off. That's because you're a Democrat, all right? And in your soul is a cuck. In your soul is a single idealized cuck chair in the corner. So whenever you see somebody who you agree with, you immediately start to think that you're a fucking loser. That's called Democrat brain. Now, you can change. You can change, all right? You don't need to be a Democrat forever. You can leave the Democratic Party mind palace and start going, actually, the vast majority of people agree with me. And here's the thing. Here's a dirty little secret about it. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, because guess what? Things change. People's minds change based on who is acting like they're right, because human beings are social animals. So confidence and assertiveness is what plays well with people on the fence. Not placation, not begging. If you want people to get off the fence and join your side, be strong and confident. Look like a winner. Don't sit there with your hands out like a fucking supplicant. Boosting ICE funding is bipartisan. Look at this, chat. Joe Biden, by the end of his term, had boost funding by like 20%. Last night was one of the most stunning examples of new media showing the old guard hacks, how it's done. On the ground, you can see the overlap between Assad, Channel 5, Taylor, all independent voices, all on the pulse of the issue, presenting the true on the ground facts. If I were CNN, I would be nervous. My competition is outdoing my billion-dollar operation with the live stream back. Oh yeah, it's fucking over. The mainstream media is toast. And this is why this is our moment. This is our moment to win. Because the thing that I have been wrestling with my entire career is the fact that liberals and left-leaning people trusted the mainstream media way more than the right did. Under Nixon, that is when the right was started to be trained to ignore mainstream media. That was the beginning of our victory, was the right wing was told, hey, who gives a fuck what the New York Times thinks? They're biased. Now that liberals and leftists are finally getting on that train and going, fuck the mainstream media, that gives us our opportunity to win. Hassan said something funny like, man, I see why the feds get mad at me. Half this crowd keeps giving me daps. Yes, that's not a joke, though. Hassan is wrong. Hassan is wrong about his influence. He's not just a stupid Twitch streamer anymore. I liked that time of our lives. I liked 2021. I liked the idea of us just chilling and giving our fucking takes and having our audience and making decent money and living our lives. That was then. But that kind of world ended on October 7th. That's the reality. He's not just a silly little streamer anymore. He's one of this country's leading political pundits and advocates. It is what it is. I hope one day to be 10% as influential as Hassan is. Look at this, chat. This is the result of voting for Democrats. Massive increase in funding. And notice that it happened during the trifectas too. 2 of these years were Democrat budgets. And he was still expanding ICE funding. And then, after the midterm, he went wild on it. He's a Republican.
For ICE, it was a missed opportunity that people say maybe we wouldn't be in this situation if ICE didn't have this kind of funding. But from this vantage point now, what you're seeing in Los Angeles, should ICE be abolished?
This is a really, really important. Liberals are coping and saying Democrats not supported abolish ICE. Democrats in favor of abolishing ICE, 55-24. Clinton voters, 57-23. Like, this is the reality. Well, yes, because it was a different time. Do you support or oppose abolishing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement and replacing it with a different agency? 43% of all the voters opposed. And you have, 33% support and 25% not sure. So in other words, a policy area where people hadn't made up their minds yet. And the overwhelming majority of the people who hadn't made up their minds, young people. So we could have got a majority for abolishing ICE, without a doubt. And when you look at Democrats, 55% supported it strongly. Pathetic. You have so much influence, you've made many comrades join PSL and DSA. Of course. Of course.
I believe it should, and it's been a privilege to have been represented by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez as a fellow representative of Astoria, and she is one of the leaders of that call and has continued to make that call, and I've been proud to receive her endorsement to become the next mayor of the city.
New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Much more of our breaking news coverage is coming up at the top of the hour. This is The Weekend, prime time.
And here's the reality. The reason why I like Zohran is because his hate is pure. He is a nice guy, but he passes the most important test. His hate is pure. Did you see the Colombian far-right presidential hopeful got shot by a 15-year-old? He was shot 3 times, including in the head. It's like you said, haters started treating like you and Hassan as if we're running for office long before the fans. And here's the reality. They can't. Oh my God, you said that Hassan and I were cringe. Oh no, I guess we're done. Nope. You dumb fuck. It doesn't matter. Eat shit.
Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers will the charge red target? How many more New Yorkers will not charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers will the charge red target?
His hate is pure. His hate is fucking pure. And that is the most important thing on recognizing a comrade, a sympathizer. That's how you tell the difference between a sympathizer and an opportunist. Is their hate pure? If you talk to someone and they're like, I don't hate anyone, get them out! Get them out! Get them out! They have no business leading. Okay, chat, I gotta figure out this ads thing. I don't want to pay for YouTube Premium. I really don't want to pay for YouTube Premium, but I might actually have to pay for YouTube Premium. Or get Firefox.
It's 20 minutes past the top of the hour. Jonathan Lemire just watched your extensive interview with Tom Homan. What stood out to you, do you think, in his comments?
There are a few things here, of course. He sort of tried to deflect a lot of the criticism of the raids, suggesting that also that the National Guard, in his estimation, was warranted in its deployment there, even though we have heard the governor of California, who usually has authority, any state governor has the authority over the National Guard, has been explicitly not wanting them. Homan disputed the idea that their presence has escalated the violence or the clashes there. I think others would disagree. And he, of course, though, leaned in on this. And we know, Mika, we talk about the show all the time, that this administration, their reflexive instinct, when they feel like they're on their strongest footing when they talk about immigration. He also brought in some news here that there were some perhaps criminal charges connected to some of these arrests. And for that, let's get reaction to that from Democratic Senator Alex Padilla of California. Senator Padilla, we have a lot of ground to cover with you this morning. We really appreciate you being with us. But let's start there. That's sort of new information that the Border Czar, Mr. Homan, shared with us just now, that some of those who were picked up by ICE in those initial raids in the Fashion District at the Home Depot, he says, are wanted for major offenses. Are you aware of that? What is your reaction to what you just heard from Mr. Homan?
Look, this administration has been anything but forthcoming and transparent with information as it pertains to immigration enforcement, not just here in Los Angeles, but since he took office on January 20th and everywhere in between. So it is absolutely frustrating. But let's just take a step back here for a second, because there's clearly not just hundreds, but thousands of folks that have been detained and deported over the last several months. In that group, are there possibly some violent
U-block origin? Is that not what I'm using?
And criminals or dangerous criminals? Of course, so nobody's contesting them being a priority. But long gone are the days that Donald Trump said that would be the only focus. What we keep hearing is story after story of a working mother or father being detained and deported with no criminal history, just happened to be in the United States undocumented. Stories of a 4-year-old girl receiving life-saving treatment that has been notified for deportation. They've, of course, since reversed that because of public pressure. But to say that they're only targeting violent criminals is false, and that's what has so many people upset. And they're choosing to ignore due process in a lot of these cases as well. That they've been sued, they've lost those lawsuits, but they continue to defy court orders just with their obsession of being cruel and aggressive.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Homan acknowledged that they were going after more than just criminals. They said that try to penetrate the shield of a sanctuary city. He also defended the use of the National Guard in this moment. But we have heard from the governor, from the mayor, from the police commissioner, all saying that the vast majority of the protesters there have been peaceful. They condemn any of those that are violent, but they say they're few and far between. What do you say here about the use of the National Guard, these troops on the streets of an American city?
Look, I agree 100%. The vast majority of protesters and demonstrators are peaceful. They're passionate. When you come into a community like Los Angeles, the way that the Trump administration has, you need to expect to be countered with people who are passionate about defending fundamental rights, about standing up for due process. Sadly, there are folks who will exploit the situation. So, yeah, the vandalism, the violence, that has no place. It's counterproductive. But let's focus on what's going on here. The National Guard is your question. This is the first time since 1965 that the National Guard has been federalized and deployed against the wishes of state and local authorities. When was the last time? When President LBJ sent troops into the South during the civil rights movement to defend civil rights protesters. This is sort of a complete 180 from that. Look, Los Angeles Police Department, I've been in touch with Chief McDonald. Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, I've been in touch with Sheriff Luna. They know how to handle demonstrations. They know how to handle protests. They know how to handle parades and rallies and everything else. Let them do their job. When the National Guard shows up without a clear mission, because there's not a clear mission that has been communicated to local authorities, that creates confusion. That creates tension. That's what has escalated the situation that, Donald Trump is now using that as a justification to escalate even more.
So my next question, Senator, is twofold. I mean, is your message to protesters, don't be played, be peaceful, or what is your message to protesters? And then are there any legal avenues that you and other elected officials are pursuing?
Yeah, so a couple of messages out there. Number one, like, this is personal for me. Not only is Los Angeles my home, anybody who knows me, I'm a proud son of immigrants. My parents came to the United States. They came to Los Angeles in pursuit of the American dream.
Hardworking headline from Dropsite News. Leaked data from Meta reveals Israeli companies are struggling to find customers. Oh, yeah.
Many others. I was born and raised there, product of public schools, and now have the honor of representing California in the United States Senate. So I know the immigrant story because of the community where I grew up. The protesters that are out there, thank you. Please keep protesting. Protest peacefully, but please.
And the reason, but here's the thing I want you to understand, chat, is that when ICE was feeling the pressure of the protests, do you know what happens? Do you know what happened? ICE quit. They stopped. If I could ever find it.
America is no.
They fucking quit. Okay, I don't have the link. Fuck. They refused to continue the operations because they were scared. The protests worked. Thank you for finding me, Grev. You are the fucking legend. You are the peacekeeper. You are the legend. Thank you, Grev. Rep. Natalie Berrigian, whose district includes Parabot, said her office was told no immigration raids ultimately happened Saturday. Although federal officials staged in preparation because of the protests, the operation did not move forward. Like, that's the thing that you got to understand, chat. Everybody telling you, like, be peaceful, give flower laurels to ICE. And obviously, I'm not advocating for violence because that would be against terms of service. And so I would never advocate that you go out and do violence. But the idea that the community showing up and protesting doesn't work or has bad optics is absolutely batshit crazy stupid. Glendale announced they will stop working with ICE detention facilities. And there is already, like, this is the thing about sanctuary city law bullshit, is actually all of these cities and the fascist cops they have working for them are getting overtime to help ICE. It's almost like direct action gets the goods. That's exactly right.
Please keep protesting, because Donald Trump wants one of two things. He either wants people to stay quiet, to cower, and just look the other way while he continues to overreach, and abuse his authority, or he wants us to overreact and give him the license to continue the escalation. So don't do that. We have to protest. Keep using your voices, absolutely.
All right, Democratic Senator Alex Padilla of California, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We look forward to more updates from you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. We begin today's show in Los Angeles, where President Trump has deployed the California National Guard in defiance of California Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. This comes after protests erupted against ICE's military-style raids in and around L.A. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has also threatened to deploy 500 active-duty Marines from Camp Pendleton. White House advisor Stephen Miller labeled the ICE protests an insurrection. On Sunday, Trump warned this could be just the beginning of deploying troops on U.S. streets.
We're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart.
Earlier today, Trump wrote on social media, "Looking really bad in L.A., bring in the troops," unquote. California Governor Gavin Newsom plans to sue the Trump administration today. He wrote, quote, "Commandeering a state's National Guard without consulting the governor of that state is illegal and immoral."
Do you have an example, or can you describe how the state could ethically moderating these protests without resorting to extreme brutality? When you are doing a policy that has complete and utter opposition by the community, is based on a racist practice of trying to mass round up immigrant communities, people are going to allow you to destroy their homes and their families. Like, they're just not going to, especially if you're doing it without the consent of the community. If the community's going to stand up and protest, and that's that. How about don't do racism and fascism?
Immoral, unquote. This marks the
fashion guy was something else. Just get a green card. You can't just get a green card. That's the whole point. And even people with green cards are being arrested. Doesn't even matter.
First time since the 1960s a president's deployed the National Guard without a governor's request. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said Trump is, quote, moving this country rapidly into authoritarianism. California State Senator Scott Wiener said, quote, "This is what fascism looks like," unquote. On Sunday, police forces in Los Angeles fired rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, and tear gas at protesters who gathered to condemn the ICE raids and deployment of the National Guard. Sunday night, L.A. police declared all of downtown Los Angeles an unlawful assembly. Over the past week, federal immigration agents arrested about 118 people in the L.A. region. On Friday, agents also arrested David Huerta, president of the California branch of SEIU, that's Service Employees International Union. He was charged with obstruction, needed to be treated at the hospital because of his injuries. He remains in custody. On Sunday, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass decried the ICE raids and the Trump administration's response.
What we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation.
This comes as Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, has threatened to have Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom arrested.
The reality is that the reason why these ICE officials are like hiding their identities and wearing civilian clothes is because they know what they're doing would cause them to have absolute hatred in their personal lives, because what they're doing is so unpopular. That's why understanding who these officials are, requiring them to have their names and their faces and their badge numbers, that's actually part of a civil society. We should know. Police should not be secret. Their identity should not be hidden.
If they interfere with federal immigration enforcement. Homan spoke to NBC's Jacob Soboroff.
You cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien. It's a felony to impede law enforcement from doing their job.
Do you think that the mayor of LA is doing that?
If she crossed that line, we'll ask DOJ to prosecute. Do I think she's crossed the line? I don't think she's crossed the line yet. But I'm telling you, the warning we're sending is we're not going to tolerate people attacking our officers.
On Sunday, police in Los Angeles made at least 27 arrests. Officers repeatedly fired rubber bullets at protesters. One hit an Australian journalist as she was reporting from the streets.
After hours of standing off, this situation has now rapidly deteriorated. The LAPD moving horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
Conservatives will say it's good to violently attack Australian blondes for reporting the news.
You just shut the fuck up.
You okay?
I'm good.
In a minute, we'll go to Los Angeles to speak with one of the people who helped organize the protests against the ICE raids. But first on Sunday, Democracy Now! Reached Janet Martinez.
By the way, again, cops don't act this way if they feel threatened. They're not threatened. I want you to understand. There is no threat. They're not threatened. You know what they do when they're threatened? They run away and hide. They don't run around with sticks if they're feeling scared or that there's violence happening. They run away and hide.
Martinez, the co-founder of Indigenous Communities and Leadership, or Cielo, in Los Angeles to talk about the impact of the ICE raids and arrests.
Around 34,000 Indigenous people live in Los Angeles County, which is around 40% of the Indigenous population based on the census data alone, which we know is an undercount. So for us, we know a lot of community members have been impacted by the recent raids by ICE all over Los Angeles. We've gotten calls from the Zapotec community, from the Mixe community, and Quiche communities that have been detained during these raids.
For more, we are joined in Los Angeles by Ron Gochez, community organizer with Unión del Barrio and a high school history teacher. His group helped organize some of the protests in Los Angeles. There's so much to discuss, Ron. Can you describe the weekend? It didn't even start with the protests. You had President
Professor X or Magneto, Mike. The problem with Magneto is Magneto to me is a Zionist. Insofar that he takes his own trauma and then he uses it as justification to do the same thing to human beings. Magneto is literally a Zionist, where he's like, I can't believe the Nazis did so many evil things to the Jews. Therefore, I'm going to like be a mutant supremacist. He literally is what he despises. And now there are different types of Magneto. There's different types of Magneto stories where he's more like a liberatory figure and others where he's more like a fascist, where, you know, or a Zionist. I think Zionism is the best way to understand Magneto as a storytelling device, which is like when they write Magneto more like Malcolm X, he's cool as fuck. When they write him more like a Zionist justifying oppressing Palestinians, he sucks. Like when they want Magneto to be like the edgy radical but on the side of goodness, he sounds more like Malcolm X. When they want to make him like a fucking a caricature of radicalism, they make him sound like a Zionist. Which reminds me of my favorite autism game. the game that I've been playing like to kill time when I just want to occupy my brain. I've talked about it before. My favorite autism game right now is called Terra Invicta. And it's basically a hard science fiction simulation of aliens that appear in our solar system. And they have 7 ideologies that form among humanity in reaction to first contact. And the far right ideology is called Humanity First. And like every ideology that all 7 of the ideologies are so fucking good. The writing is so smart, and like the politics of the game makes so much sense. I like appreciate that game, not because of the autism simulations, right? Which of course takes up my time, but just the ideas behind each of the factions are so fucking smart and so well done. It's called, I think the main thing that's wrong with the game, I think if they had a little bit more money for the art and like I really hate how they did the counselors. The counselors look so uncanny valley. That's the worst part of the game. Everything else is is awesome. I like the little paintings they have, and the rest of the game graphically works perfectly well. It's just I hate the counselor graphic. It looks so shit. That's the one thing that I hate about the game, which is like kind of a bummer. The game is so good.
President Trump threatening to cut off aid to California, federal aid.
I never heard the phrase autism game and looked at the Steam page and was like, oh yeah, that's it. It's basically, is it published by Paradox? Is it published by Paradox? If it is published by Paradox, it's probably an autism game. And that's not bad. You know, it's not bad. Now this is publisher is called Hooded Horse. I think they have some sort of deal with Paradox as well. I can't remember what. It is a Paradox game. I'm like 99% sure. Or like developed at least it is the terrifying child of XCOM and Crusader Kings. The reason why this game popped in my head is because Humanity First, the main leader of Humanity First, talks about how much he likes Magneto in one of the like story vignettes. He's like talking to his nephew or something. Like the Academy, like just to understand, I've explained this game before, but like Project Exodus is like billionaires who want to use the alien arrival and their technology to make humanity a multi-planet species. The Initiative is like capitalists who are trying to take advantage of the arrival to increase their own power. The Academy are the socialists and social democrats, democratic socialists who want to create a an interstellar alliance, basically create Star Trek, make Star Trek real. The Protectorate are like, they are doomers. They are people who they're liberals who have like given up on humanity. They realize that humanity is just never going to be able to fight the aliens and never going to unite. So the best thing we can do is just appease the aliens and surrender to the aliens, but try to protect human culture as much as possible. But they're the doomers, right? Doomer liberals. And then the servants are like, the leader is like a Southern evangelical Christian who worships the aliens as like, oh yeah, this is God's plan and we need to serve the aliens. We need to not only surrender to the aliens, we need to like help the aliens take us over because they're a gift from God. It's so good. And by the way, this seems like, this faction seems like it's full of dumbasses. It's so well written. It's so thoughtful. They do such a good job. Humanity First are like xenophobic, racist, fascists. The leader is like a Contra, like a former Contra from South America. This unites like all of humanity's like xenophobes and fascists and like, the right wing who want to basically figure out how to exterminate and genocide the aliens because they say that aliens are too much of a threat to the human race. So their very existence puts us at an existential threat of being, genocided. So the best thing to do is to genocide them first. And of course, the resistance is like liberals who are like, we have to protect our way of life.
You had the ICE raids, and then talk about what happened even before then Trump announced that he would deploy the National Guard, and Hegseth said he's put the Marines on high alert.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me today. This weekend was marked with absolute and total violence, brutal repression, and attacks, coordinated attacks against our community. ICE agents have been around all over Southern California, kidnapping people, tearing apart families, and we see this as an attack against our people. And so that's why you see young people, the community coming out and resisting this repression. We are tired, sick and tired of these attacks that are dividing and separating our families. And so that's why when we have these protests, they have been peaceful, but when the repression comes from the state, whether it's the sheriffs, the LAPD, or on Saturday, for example, in Paramount, California, it was the Border Patrol, it was brutal violence. They shot thousands of rounds of tear gas, of flashbang grenades, of all kinds of repressive instruments used against the community, but what they didn't think was going to happen was that the people would resist and would fight back. And that's exactly what happened in Paramount and in Compton, California, where for 8.5 hours, the people combated in the streets against the Border Patrol. And after 8.5 hours of battle, and it was a battle because there were people throwing back tear gas, people throwing anything that they could to defend themselves and to defend.
Notice that like battle is throwing back the tear gas that the fascist right-wing cops fired, right? Like notice fighting back is just kicking back the weapons that you paid for back to the cops.
These are line infantry. Deploying the Marines to Los Angeles is so fucking stupid. Like think about it. We were just at the fucking protest. I mean, we got shot at, right? And now we're here in Little Tokyo, only a couple blocks away, enjoying a delicious ice cream and cold brew. Do you feel like there's a fucking necessity to deploy the goddamn Marine Corps? This administration is so fucking stupid. I hate them so much.
The thing is, by deploying the Marines, they're going to actually cause everything to get worse. Like, they're literally going to cause everything to get worse. They're going to escalate the situation. Buttery Flaky has resubscribed for 6 months at tier 1. This is what we like to see. We like to see it. More and more and more and more 6-month subscriptions. Take advantage of the discounts.
Police unit, these are line infantry.
I mean, this is, by the way, Hassan, like, never having been to Little Tokyo is actually fucking funny. Like, when I first went to LA, it was like one of the first places I went with Vio. It made me laugh so hard. It's like the whole reason you live in Los Angeles is because you have places like Little Tokyo and Koreatown and Filipino Town. It's like the entire reason in Chinatown. It's the entire reason to be in LA. It's the best part. Like, who lives in LA for fucking Beverly Hills white people? Nobody. You're here for the fusion of Mexican culture and Asian cultures. That's what makes LA fun.
Deploying the Marines to Los Angeles is so...
Okay, sorry, I replayed this. I meant to go back to democracy now. Sorry.
The workers that were being surrounded.
Did I go down? I was really close to the protest yesterday. I went down to the library, as I'm wont to do, and my reaction was, it's time to gear up. It's time to gear up. That was my reaction. I like the library. I never pay for any book I never pay for any right-wing or centrist book, but I do read them. So I know how to debate them. So I know their pathetic arguments. So I will go to the library if I can't get the book, like, you know, as an audio book or steal it. And there was one right-wing book that I needed to get. Also, when you take the right-wing book out of the library, no one else is reading it. So I'm going to keep it for the entire full period of checkout. So I'm going to keep it all the way as long as I'm going to read it in like a day or two, and then I'm going to keep it just to make sure less people read it. Did you make your local library get a copy of Abundance? Unfortunately, they already had some, but you got it right. I would never, ever, ever, I would never in a million years pay for this shit. I would never in a million years pay for this shit. You see this? I would never, ever, ever in a million years give a single dime to Ezra Klein. And oh my God, is it dog shit. Oh my God, is this book terrible. I'll give you a reading. Progressivism's promises and policies for decades were built around giving people money or money-like vouchers to go out and buy something the market was producing but the poor could not afford. The Affordable Care Act subsidizes insurance that people could use to pay for health care. Food stamps give people money for food. Housing vouchers give them money for rent. Pell Grants give them money for college. Tax credits for childcare give people money to buy childcare. Social Security gives them money for retirement. The minimum wage and earned income tax credit give them more money for anything they want. A minimum wage is not giving people money. It is forcing employers to pay workers a higher rate. It's not the same thing, but he lumps it in. These are important policies and we support them. But while Democrats focused on giving consumers money to buy what they needed, they paid less attention to the supply of goods and services they wanted everyone to have. Countless taxpayer dollars were spent on health insurance, housing vouchers, and infrastructure without an equally energetic focus, sometimes without any focus at all, on what that money was actually buying and building. This reflected a faith in the market that was, in its way, no less touching than that offered by Republicans. It assumed that so long as money was dangled in front of it, the private sector could and would achieve social goals. It revealed a disinterest in the workings of government. Regulations were assumed to be wise. Policies were assumed to be effective. Cries that government was stifling production or innovation fell on deaf ears. A blind spot emerged. Political movements consider solutions where they know to look for problems. Democrats learned to look for opportunities to subsidize. They gave little thought to the difficulties of production. If you know anything about the history of politics in America, you know this is absolute dog shit. This is absolute dog water. These are the policies that people like Ezra Klein have been pushing, not the left. These are Ezra Klein's fucking entire political philosophy and all the people he aligns with. This is him. This is not progressives. This is you stupid fuck. We wanted Medicare for all. We wanted to eliminate the private insurance market. We wanted to build public housing. You're the one who put in the Fair Cloth Amendment. You're the one who did Section 8 housing vouchers. You're the person who stopped things like the production of I'll give you another example. Municipal broadband. You're the guys that push for the deregulation and privatization of the electricity grid to a little company called Enron in California. That was you, Ezra. Every single one of those things was fucking you. So basically, these fuckers handcuffed government. They destroyed government. They turned it into, well, the free market will fix it. Just give people money and they'll buy it on the free market. And guess what happened? The free market just stole the government money hand over fist and didn't actually produce shit. And all that's happened is all those things subsidized by Democratic centrists like Ezra Klein have exploded in price. Because when the government doesn't provision it, it doesn't get delivered. So this is a way of being like, oh yeah, the progressives are so wrong in the way they trusted the free market. What the fuck are you talking about?
By over 100 Border Patrol agents. After 8.5 hours, the Border Patrol, the sheriffs had to retreat. They had to retreat because of the fierce resistance of the community, and the hundreds of workers that were in the factories around them were able to escape. They were able to go to their cars and go home. That was only thanks to the resistance that allowed them to go home that night. And so that is one clear sign that if we organize ourselves, if we resist, we can defend our communities from ICE terror, from the Border Patrol, or from any federal agency that wishes to separate our families. And so because of that, while that was happening, while that resistance was happening, we saw President Trump give the order of the National Guard. And so for us as indigenous people to these lands, to this continent, this is nothing new. The military going after us is nothing new. The United States and this part of the country is a result of a military invasion of Mexico. And so we know what's coming. It's more repression, but what they have to know is that they're also going to face more resistance from the community. We don't want to be violent, and we don't advocate for violence, but when they use brutal violence against our people, and kidnapping mothers and fathers from children is violent, when they do things like that, we have every right, every historic right to defend our communities by any ways that we can, and we're going to continue to do so.
And Ron, you mentioned Paramount on Saturday. For those people who are not familiar with that town south of Los Angeles, there's also been a change in the Trump administration tactics. Originally, they claimed they were going after criminals. Now, increasingly, they're being pushed to increase the arrest numbers, so they're hitting workplaces. So, could you talk about this change and how this is affecting the community?
Yeah, the fascist Trump administration is trying to lie and confuse the American people into supporting this repression.
Computer the Geek, thank you for the 20 tier ones. Let's fucking go, chat. Remember, this week and this week alone, 35% discount. This is probably going to be the last discount until the end of the year. So take advantage of those sub discounts.
Into supporting these immigration raids by having the general public think that they're going after criminals. But now what's publicly known, what's painfully clear, is that the majority of these raids are going after workers, working class people. They're not going after criminals. They're going at Home Depots. They're going at construction sites. You know, they're going to factories where people are working, where they're creating the resources necessary for this society to exist. And so I think everyone now knows that it's a lie. They're going after anyone and everyone who has brown skin specifically. And, you know, they're attacking pretty much anybody. You have the Asian community. You have black immigrants under attack. You have anybody in this country who isn't a white male, basically, who is under attack. So I think working people everywhere should see this as an attack on working class people, and they should all unite in solidarity to repel these attacks against our community. And so, again, we've proven time and time again, when we organize ourselves, we can defend ourselves. At this moment, it's 5:30 or so in Los Angeles, or 5 in the morning in Los Angeles. We already have people all over Los Angeles right now patrolling the streets of Los Angeles, looking for any ICE activity. That's the work that we do on a daily basis to protect our communities. So on one hand, there's street protests, and those are important, but the other part is organized and coordinated resistance by patrolling our streets, defending our streets. We can't protect the entire city of Los Angeles, but in our neighborhoods, in our barrios, we can defend ourselves, and we are doing that.
And what is your sense of the response of California's Governor Newsom and also the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, so far?
Yeah, we understand that they're against what's happening, but we also have to say that talk is cheap. Governor Newsom can order the National Guard to stand down. If he's against President Trump using them against us, well, he can order them to stand down. He has not done so. Here in the city of Los Angeles, Karen Bass is saying that she's against the raids that are happening. Well, why are her police officers aiding and collaborating with ICE, with the Border Patrol, to attack the community? If they are really there to serve and protect, as it says on their vehicles, then those rubber bullets and that gas that they're shooting right now, they're aiming at the wrong people. It shouldn't be aimed at us. It should be aimed at the agents who are trying to kidnap the people in our community. But obviously, we know we cannot expect help or support from the police, from the sheriffs here in Los Angeles. Even though we live in a state that's run by a Democrat as a governor, we have a Democratic Party mayor, we have Democratic Party council members, we cannot expect for them to defend the people. Only the people will organize and defend themselves, and that's what we're doing right now.
Ron Goetschers, this is a very interesting point because it was being portrayed in different ways yesterday when the LAPD moved in and was clearing people from away from, was it Alameda, the Federal Building. In some media reports, they were saying they were clearing protesters away.
Mike is being dishonest to cover. She purposely didn't show the footage of the violent protester hurling rocks at cars with a $50K bounty on him, but I must thank them because the rhetoric will calls one of his viewers to get hurt. As a bonus, the footage of the riots will be used effectively in the midterms by Republicans. You understand that Biden beat Trump in 2020, right? Biden beat Trump in 2020, right? Like, you understand that the riots are happening while Donald Trump is president, right? You understand that the Republicans are in power, right? Like, you're the party of disorder. You're the party of uprising because the people don't respect you. And a guy threw a rock at a car. And guess what happened? Nothing. Meanwhile, here's the thing. You want to cry and complain about cars being on fire, which you don't even know who did it. You don't even know who started the fires. You just see cars on fire. And you have no context for anything. Here's the reality. And here's what I want you to understand. When our time comes, we're not going to apologize. This is your time. Look how weak it is. Look how weak you are. They had to cancel the ice raids because of a peaceful protest. When our time comes, we won't apologize. We will not apologize. We know how to get shit done. Trust me, we know how to get shit done.
So that they wouldn't be directly confronting the National Guard, which
your only time is in your Twitch bubble. The most powerful country in the world is China. I think you're in the tiny little shrinking bubble. XQC and the community have become too fascistic for my liking. I guess having genocide-loving losers like Destiny and Asmod as your moral compasses turns you into a fascist little bitch as well. Fuck XQC. We all saw burning cars and got mad I wasn't celebrating. Nah, we see kidnapped families and remember your role in it. Get fucking owned. I mean, genociding loving for Destiny is a lie, but okay. Asmod Gold is, we are, and that one comment. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, this is, these fucking cowardly Destiny viewers blocking me is insane. Destiny said he supported genocide.
Honestly, I'm pro-genocide. Like, it sounds really shitty, but like, I think that Israel should just drop its fucking borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really shitty, but like, that's about where I'm at.
You just think the Palestine should just pack up and Native American the fuck out of there?
The problem is that it seems like there is a hugely general hostility to Jewish people across really the entire world, but definitely the Middle East. So the problem is that as you weaken Israel's like ability for Jewish people to live there, it seems like there is because there's a lot of different organizations across the Middle East that are highly invested in the destruction of Israel. So that's like a really rough thing too.
So there you go. He legitimately made his argument. Also, the idea that Jewish people are under threat in the world right now is some of the most laughable bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Meanwhile, there is a genocide where children are being mass bombed. To try to equate what's happening to Palestinian people to anti-Semitism is insane. I just want to start the land reform movement of America. That's all I want. That's all I want. The land reform movement of America. I don't think Bill Gates should be able to own 1 million acres of high quality farmland. I want to have a land reform movement of America.
Mayor has criticized, the National Guard in full, what they say, full battle rattle. But you're saying that although Governor Newsom may sue today, he could actually tell the National Guard to stand down. And do you see any possibility of the LAPD?
Okay, so the National Guard for each state is under the control of that state. That's how it works. Okay. However, the federal government can nationalize the National Guard and assert sovereignty over the National Guard and bring it into the command of the Pentagon, which apparently is what Trump has done. If Gavin Newsom were to order the California National Guard to stand down, that would create a constitutional crisis, and that would cause a command authority mismatch. However, I think it's very likely that the commanders would have to make a decision of who they were listening to. And it seems to me that, it's highly likely that they would ignore Newsom, that they have no loyalty to California. That would be my guess. What's my take on land back? I am an internationalist Marxist. I would like to see the idea of borders in general being fundamentally undermined by the creation of even development across the world in international institutions. It's like reparations. It's like you're aiming for a radical change that will deliver you medium results. It's like, why don't we go for the whole kit and caboodle? It's like moderate radicalism. It only sounds radical for the position of being a liberal.
Confronting the National Guard and maybe if Hegseth calls out the Marines on the streets?
No, we don't anticipate that at all. I have personally been physically removed from an ICE raid here in South Central Los Angeles by the LAPD. So when the mayor says that the LAPD doesn't collaborate with ICE or with federal agencies, it's a total lie. While you may not have LAPD officers on the streets asking people for their citizenship or detaining people for immigration reasons, what you do have is the LAPD, the LA County Sheriffs, the CHP, or any law enforcement agency that's here locally locally, they are collaborating, they are protecting the operations. They close down the streets around operations so that ICE can do their kidnappings of our people. And so that is a direct collaboration. And here in Los Angeles, if it wasn't for the repression of the LAPD, of the LA County sheriffs, you would have thousands of more people who would be resisting against these ICE raids. But it is the police, it is the sheriffs who are basically protecting the operations and protecting everything that's happening against our community. So do we anticipate, do we expect the police to join our side? No. But what we do say, what we can say, is that a lot of those police officers here in Los Angeles, a lot of those sheriffs, and a lot of those National Guardsmen, and even Marines, if they come here, a lot of them are Mexican, are Central American, are the sons and daughters of immigrants. In fact, here in Los Angeles, there's hundreds of LAPD officers who are DACA, meaning they're undocumented as well. And so they have to see that they're being used by the Trump administration to use violence against their own people. So we as Unión del Barrio do call on them to stand down. Do not raise your weapons against your own people. This is like your mother, your auntie, your father that you're repressing. So we do call on them to join us, stand on the right side of history, do not support the Trump administration, support the people. Because what we're doing is fighting for justice. We're fighting for the righteous, the right to live and to exist and to work and to feed our families. There's nothing extreme about that. We just simply want to work, we want to live, and we want to have a dignified life like anyone else deserves. So we're seeing resistance right now from the people in Gaza resisting and fighting for their lives, to us right here on our own historic homeland, our indigenous land here. We're fighting for our lives as well. And we're going to continue to do so, whether it's the police, the National Guard. We don't want violence. We don't want violence. But we also aren't going to sit by and see our people be kidnapped and see our community be attacked by any federal agency or local law enforcement. We won't do it.
Ron, what's happening to those who've been detained? Angelica Salas, the executive director of the immigrant rights group Churla, said lawyers don't have access to people detained Friday. Have they been released? What's their status? And do you know about the status of David Huerta, the head of SEIU, the Service Employees International Union? We heard he was sent to the hospital with injuries and he's been detained.
Yeah, what we know right now is there's no due process for the majority of the people. People who get detained, we have reports, and we have confirmed reports that people who get picked up in the morning in Los Angeles, by the same day in the evening are already in Mexico City. That is confirmed. You cannot have due process in less than 24 hours. It's absolutely impossible. And so people are just being shipped immediately, across the border and to many places. We have confirmed cases of Mexican citizens, Mexican nationals who have been deported to Guatemala and dumped into Guatemala, a country that they have never been to and don't belong in. And so that's what's happening on the ground here in Los Angeles. Yesterday or Saturday, I don't know, today it's just been one long day of resistance for us. But, elected officials have gone to the detention center where hundreds of our people are being kept, and they demanded to be allowed to enter so that they can view the conditions that the people are living in. Places like these are basements that have no restrooms, they have no sanitary conditions for the people. There's not enough food and water for the people. Those are the reports that we're getting. They were denied entry. They were not allowed to see inside to see how these people are being treated. So it's a real crisis right now for our community, and that's why we don't want to wait until our people are kidnapped and taken into detention to take action. That's why we do community patrols every day in the morning around our communities to try to prevent our people from being kidnapped. And when we say kidnapped, that is the exact word that we need to use, because the state is using brutal violence to separate us, to take us against our will from our families, from our homes, from our jobs, and to take us somewhere else. So that by definition is a kidnapping. And that's what we're fighting against, because we know that our people are not going to have due process. If lawyers and elected officials aren't being allowed to enter detention facilities to see their conditions that the people are living in, what makes us think that the people inside are going to have any type of human rights? We know that it's not happening.
And Ron, I wanted to ask you about President Trump's calling in of the National Guard, the use of flashbang grenades, of rubber bullets, of tear gas against the protesters. A reminder that back on January 6th, when a mob stormed the Capitol and tried to prevent the certification of election, there was no use of flashbang grenades or of tear gas or of rubber bullets against that mob. And yet here, it has been used, and the president is claiming there's an insurrection.
Yeah, we know that the violence is going to be against us, against our community. And, sometimes people think, oh, well, it's not that bad. It's just a little bit of tear gas. No, we've seen people be seriously injured. On Saturday in Compton, California, when we were there on the front lines of the resistance against the sheriffs and against the Border Patrol, we saw a guy standing in front of us who got hit in the face with I don't know if it was a rubber bullet or what it was, but his face was completely split open and he was just gushing blood everywhere. These things can be lethal. If these rubber bullets hit you in the eye, if they hit you in the right place, they can absolutely be lethal. And so we understand that the violence is being used against us. It is lethal. We understand that the violence is being used against us on a daily basis, whether it's by the Border Patrol or the police. It's violence against the community. And so we have every right to defend ourselves by any means necessary, because that is the livelihood, the well-being of our families is what's at stake. Children have been gassed here in Los Angeles. And so whether it's the National Guard, whether it's the local police, we have to resist this, because in Los Angeles, we clearly understand what's happening. The Trump administration is trying to make an example of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the heart of the Mexican and Central American community here in the United States. And so they think that if they can break us, they can break anyone in the country. And so we understand that. And that's what we know. We cannot afford to fail. The resistance will continue. Whether they keep threatening us or not, we will continue. We will be peaceful every time that we can. But if we face violence, where we have to defend ourselves, we have every human right to do so as well.
Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.
Chat, we also have the story of the Liam Cunningham was on the Gaza flotilla, and he posted, the Freedom Flotilla was attacked during the night. The ship was rammed, boarded, and the 12 volunteers kidnapped. This is more reprehensible behavior from the genocidal regime in Tel Aviv. Conor McGregor says, I thought you were on this boat, Limo. What happened? You forgot your goggles? You get seasick off the gargle? Bottler. Liam Cunningham said, didn't know you could read and write, Conor. Thought you used your hands to tap out. Absolutely bodied. Sort of like a description of Conor McGregor's last fight. Absolutely bodied. He gets beat in the ring and he gets beat out of the ring. Oof.
David,
So apparently Gavin Newsom is trying to get back on the good side of liberals. He was kissing the ass of every Trumple on his stupid fucking podcast. And now he's like running out in front of the cameras going, arrest me, arrest me.
You've also mentioned Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom, and there have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people who are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes, been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn.
Trump border czar Tom Homan and Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom of Florida speaking to NBC's Jacob Soboroff during a weekend of significant unrest in Southern California as protesters took to the streets in response to ICE raids across the Los Angeles area. This morning, the National Guard is on the ground after President Trump deployed thousands of troops there. Jacob Soboroff is standing by in L.A. with the latest, along with NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Meanwhile, President Trump is warning Elon Musk there will be very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates after their very public falling out. We'll discuss whether Democrats should now be looking to bring Musk back into their fold. Plus, it was a huge sports weekend, unbelievable, with the NBA Finals, the Belmont Stakes, and possibly The best men's final match of all time at the French Open. Pablo Torre will join us with a huge recap. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Monday, June 9th, and we have a lot to get to. Our panel this morning, co-host of our fourth hour, contributing writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, U.S. special correspondent for BBC News, and the host of The Rest is Politics podcast. Caddy K is with us. Senior writer at The Dispatch, David Drucker, is here. He's also a Bloomberg columnist and co-founder and CEO of Axios. Jim Vandehei joins us. So we're entering Day 4 of protests in Los Angeles as demonstrators continue to clash with law enforcement. The protests began on Friday in response to immigration raids. ICE says it arrested 118 people after executing search warrants at multiple locations last week, 44 of whom were taken into custody during Friday's operation. On Saturday, California Governor Gavin Newsom said the situation was under control. This despite clashes being reported. Shortly after, President Trump deployed the National Guard, sending 2,000 members there to intervene. It's the first time in decades this has been done without a request from the governor. And now, Northern Command.
Now notice this, chat. Notice that these shots only come from front lines where the cops are attacking. The violence is, oh, look how violent the protests are, but it is cops attacking random people with signs and t-shirts and shorts. I don't see black bloc. I don't see people throwing shit. I see regular Angelinos protesting.
Says 500 Marines are ready to deploy if the situation gets worse. Police have been using tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds. Earlier, demonstrators spilled onto the 101 freeway, causing it to partially shut down. Authorities say at least 56 people have been arrested so far. Let's bring in NBC News political and national correspondent Jacob Soboroff, live from Los Angeles, and NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Now, Jacob, you've been on this developing story all weekend. We heard some of your interviews with Governor Gavin Newsom and the border czar, Tom Homan. What is the latest so far at this hour?
Well, Mika, I want to back up to Friday and talk about how unusual the situation is here in Los Angeles. On Friday morning, here in the LA bureau of NBC News, the first reports started coming in of ICE raids across Los Angeles. And the local news had aerial footage of Bearcat, sort of tactical style vehicles going through the streets of Los Angeles. And that's when those first melees broke out. On Friday night, there was a peaceful protest that then did turn into a bit of a skirmish between federal agents and people who are out there protesting. And that scene repeated itself over the course of the next several days with, of course, the president, against the wishes of Governor Newsom, bringing in the National Guard, exercising Title 10 of the U.S. Code to bring in the National Guard to Los Angeles to protect it. It's very specific, federal property and federal agents that are carrying out these raids. The reason I say it's unusual is that this is not, and Julia can talk about this as well or better than I can, this is not the ordinary way that ICE has operated historically in Los Angeles or across the country, but under this, stated mass deportation program of the Trump
administration. Yeah, this is very important to understand, is that Stephen Miller ordered ICE to 5X their apprehensions. Now, to do that, they're not going after MS-13. They're not going after human traffickers. They're not going after criminals. They're just grabbing law-abiding immigrants. That's the only way they can do that, is to just blanket deny everybody's asylum and just arrest anybody who's a foreign national in this country. That's the only way they can 5X. They're not going to go into a hardened drug den and fight gangsters who are armed to the teeth. No, they're not going to try to do sting operations to catch human traffickers or coyotes. No, that involves detective work. That involves police work. That's difficult. That's dangerous. They're going to grab abuelas. They're going to grab grandpas and grandmas. That's all they can do. They're going to grab people that come into their court hearing for their asylum case. They're going to grab those people because they are easy and they are riskless to assault. They don't want to actually fight back, which is why these protests are so necessary. Because you have to convince ICE that acting in this unlawful violent way is not going to get compliance. The community is going to stand up and say, no, you're not going to arrest our friends and our family members and our neighbors. We reject you. And that will cause ICE to go, okay, well, we can't just round up random brown people off the street. We need to actually focus on real criminals and human traffickers and violent gangs. And that is the only way to convince them that just assaulting grandma is not worth it. Alex MZ, thank you for the money.
Administration, you are seeing raids at places like Home Depots where day laborers are. You know, those were not targeted enforcement areas on a wide scale under Democratic nor Republican administrations previously, and has so many people on edge here in Los Angeles because we're a majority minority city. There are 50% plus people of color in Los Angeles, including many Latinos, including maybe as many as 1 million undocumented people here in the Los Angeles area. So it has devolved into this feud, which Governor Newsom says didn't need to happen. Mayor Bass said didn't need to happen. They do not want the National Guard here. And before the National Guard was here, quite frankly, these types of melees were not happening on the streets of Los Angeles. First, Tom Homan told me that he wasn't ruling out, as you saw at the beginning of the show, arresting Governor Newsom nor Mayor Karen Bass if they got in between the ICE enforcement operations and the federal agents. And then last night in the Emergency Operations Center, I spent some time with Governor Newsom as he monitored the situation here. And I asked him about what Tom Homan had said about arresting him. I want to play a little bit more of that sound for you right now, Mika. Watch this.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people that are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes, been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
So tough stuff from the governor of California, and caught in between this war of words, which is a feud that's familiar to so many people who have covered the relationship between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump, are families, many mixed status families that live here in Los Angeles, meaning an undocumented maybe parent or relative and a young child, or even a teenager or somebody older than that who was born here in this country. The thing is, President Trump and Gavin Newsom have been talking behind the scenes, at least since the beginning of this began. I asked him about a phone conversation that they had on Friday night, and he said that they had a relatively cordial conversation, and this didn't come up. I want to give you a little bit more of what Governor Newsom said about his conversation on Friday night, Mika, with the president. Watch this.
Well, under his executive order, it specifically notes, and under what the DOD did, is they had to coordinate with the governor of the state. They never coordinate with the governor of the state. We talked for almost 20 minutes, and this issue never came up. I mean, I kept trying to talk about L.A. He wanted to talk about all these other issues. We had a very decent conversation.
When was this?
This was late Friday night. I think about 1:30 plus his time.
After the protests had started here?
After the protests, and he never once brought up the National Guard. He's a stone-cold liar. He said he did. Stone-cold liar. Never did. It was a very civil conversation. I've always wanted to approach engagement with the President of the United States in a respectful and responsible way. But there's no working with the President. There's only working for him. And I will never work for Donald Trump. I mean, where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it. I'll say it again. It's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk.
So that's what this is really all about, putting real people's lives at risk. And, you know, you've heard reports that there are riots on the streets of Los Angeles. There are certainly there has been civil unrest, reports of looting overnight. But on a wide scale, that is not what's happening across the city of Los Angeles. And I think it's important to emphasize that this is also not what was happening before the National Guard came to Los Angeles. That's the point that Governor Newsom is making, and that's why he has asked and said this morning he's filing a lawsuit, Mika, to get that authority back from the President of the United States and remove the deployment of the National Guard on the streets of Los Angeles, because he's saying that's what's inflammatory here. And caught in the crosshairs are these migrant residents of Los Angeles, many of whom have been here most of their entire lives.
The Unity Party is complete. Gavin is now Trump. I mean, it's always been complete. It's always been that way.
David, what's happening?
Like, don't you understand that? Like, it's always been that way. It's just you haven't noticed. You were enthralled by the bullshit and the propaganda. It has been that way for decades and decades and decades. Long before I was aware of politics. Every time I look further back, I see a Democratic Party that was eager to capitulate. I mean, I think a lot of people use the phrase Red Scare without really understanding what it meant or what the process was of the Red Scare. The Red Scare was liberals stabbing social democrats, democratic socialists, socialists, communists in the back throughout World War II. And through most of FDR's administration, the left was supportive of the Democratic Party. There was criticisms, there was calls for further, but there was a generalized support of the New Deal, a generalized support of, you know, the good neighbor doctrine, the generalized support of an alliance with the Soviet Union. The left was there and willing and able to support Democrats. And that's what they did up until FDR's death. And then, in came the Dulles brothers, in came anti-communism. And this was the liberals decided to stab the left in the back and then deny us rights. Deny us our constitutional rights, work with fascism, both here and abroad. That is the process that took place. The reason why America doesn't have a socialist party, the reason why America doesn't have a strong left is because liberals allied with Republicans to make it illegal and destroyed the lives of people because they expressed left-wing values. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot in the fucking head. He was assassinated. Excuse me. He was assassinated. People say, like, use the example of Martin Luther King Jr. What? Die? Malcolm X, assassinated. Black Panther Party, forcibly dispersed with violence. Like, this is the reality. And who did most of the violence? It was liberals.
Joining us now, border czar for the Trump administration, Tom Homan. Mr. Homan, thank you for joining us
Notice how
this
these
morning.
fascist fucks get free ride on MSNBC. Notice how these fascist fuckers get free fucking ride. This is why our country's in crisis. Do you think this happens on the other networks? The other way around?
We have now seen 3 days worth of wide-scale immigration enforcement in LA County in the Fashion District at the Home Depot there. When your appointment was announced, you said that ICE, your agency, would focus on national security threats and public safety threats. Were there public safety threats in the Fashion District and at that Home Depot in these raids we've seen?
Yeah, and that's what no one's talking about. The Fashion District wasn't an immigration raid. It was the service of 3 criminal warrants at locations based on a large criminal conspiracy that ICE have been investigating. That has to do with money laundering, tax evasion, and customs fraud, where a company underdeclared over $80 million in goods, failed to pay $17 million in fees. And it's part of an overall conspiracy on numerous businesses that they believe that some of this money is being laundered in Mexico and Colombia to fund cartel activity. So this was a criminal investigation that they all responded to in the beginning. That's how it all started. But the facts never got out. Even though we put the facts out, the media didn't cover it. They just said immigration raids, we're separating families and all the negative information we hear all the time. We took a lot of bad people off the street last couple of days. A Vietnamese national that attended a graduation party was kicked out and came back and killed 2 young people, two young Americans. We arrested a child predator. We arrested someone for sexual misconduct.
By the way, Chad, this is directly out of the Nazi playbook, right? Which is, there are no doubt criminals among the immigration population, because guess why? They're human beings. So human beings, any group of human beings is going to have antisocial freaks. It's going to have criminals. It's going to have predators. It's going to have sex criminals. Every single group has that. Whether it's white men, whether that's Japanese women, they all have criminals in them. And so what makes this bigoted, what makes this a lie, is the attempt to equate all immigrants with these examples of criminal behavior. It is to try to spread the responsibility for criminal acts on an entire group of people because they have some sort of physical characteristic in common. And it's irrational and it's bigoted bullshit. It would be like blaming, it'd be like arresting, arresting Asmongold for being a disgusting fucking nuisance to his neighborhood by having all those pests and cockroaches and rats spewing out of his house like a plague sister, okay? And arresting him and going, every white man with a beard is guilty of spreading vermin. Now, that's obviously ridiculous. You would look at that and go like, what does having a beard have to do with it? That's the exact same way that you should look at this, like, oh, this guy somebody got arrested for being a sex criminal. What does that have to do with being an immigrant? But the thing is, they understand this. Tom Homan understands that what he's doing is propaganda. He's not confused. He's evil. A lot of the followers of people that support Donald Trump or Asmongold are just stupid pieces of shit. But these guys at the top of the right, they know what they're doing is Nazi shit. They're not confused. Donald Trump knows he's doing Nazi shit. Stephen Miller knows he's doing Nazi shit. They're not confused. Trump used to read Nazi speeches for fun. He used to read Hitler's speeches in bed. That's according to his ex-wife and admitted by Trump. This is not a they know what they're doing. They know they're doing Nazi shit. They are not confused. And just so you understand the context, like I say Nazi shit and people think I'm being like hyperbolic or something like that. No, this is exactly how they did it. And they had a section in Der Stürmer, which was the Nazi Fox News, Der Stürmer, the Nazi New York Post. A major challenge of political anti-Semitism involves overcoming the image of the Jew next door, the living, breathing acquaintance or associate whose simple existence appears to deny the validity of the negative stereotype. This is why Trump voters are constantly going, I didn't vote for this Trump. He's deporting my gardener. He's deporting this nice grandma next door. That's not my Trump. That's not the Trump I voted for. And this was a problem that Nazis constantly talked about, which is everybody, even Nazi party members would be like, well, I have the one good Jew. That's what they would say. The one good Jew. Or in Donald Trump and the Trumpian MAGA shit, I have the one good immigrant. Or if you want me to even be more specific, Asmongold with OTK, the one good Arab, tips out. Or with Ethan Klein, the one good Arab, AB. Every single one of these supremacists has these examples where they're like, oh, you know, this is the good one. This is the good one. This is the good one. But in reality, almost all of them are good people because most people are actually good people. So in order to fight against this, like, you know, Jews, you know, Arabs, you know, immigrants, to fight against your actual experience, they have to create these caricatures. They have to highlight these exceptional stories. Der Stürmer was known for its use of simple themes that required little thought. The newspaper often gave descriptions of how to identify Jewish people, included racist political cartoons, including anti-Semitic caricatures. Beside the graphic depictions, articles often focused on imaginary fears, exaggerations, and perceived behavioral differences between Jews and other German citizens. They also focused on Rassenschande, which means race, like bad race or something like that, which denoted alleged scandals of Jewish men and German women having sex. They described Jews as sex offenders, who are violators of innocent, perpetrators of bizarre sex crimes, and ritual murderers. Does this sound like how they describe Hamas? These Zionists, these fascists, they know what they're doing. They're using the Nazi playbook intentionally, knowingly. They are fucking evil people. Now, a lot of their supporters are just tricked and they don't know that this is the Nazi playbook. Stryker also frequently reported attempts of child molestation by Jews. It never lacked details about sexual or intercourse, names, and crimes to keep readers aroused and entertained. These accusations, articles, and crimes printed in Der Stürmer were often inaccurate and rarely investigated by staff members. In the newspaper's opinion, if a German girl became pregnant by a Jew, the Jew would deny paternity, offer to pay for an abortion, fail to pay child support, or leave for the U.S. Like, this is literally how they do it. It's the same shit. Now let's go listen to Tom Homan talk about immigrants.
Families and all the negative information we hear all the time. We took a lot of bad people off the street last couple of days. A Vietnamese national that attended a graduation party was kicked out and came back and killed two young people, two young Americans. We arrested a child predator. We arrested someone for sexual misconduct. Someone arrested for committed armed robbery. We arrested numerous gang members. What ICE did the last couple of days is make Los Angeles safer by taking public safety threats off the street.
Is everyone that has been arrested by ICE agents have a criminal record like those you've described?
Absolutely not. And I said from day one, January 20th, we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. However, we will enforce law. I may prioritize my family life over my work. It doesn't mean I ignore my work. We're going to force the immigration law. We've been honest about that from day one, especially in sanctuary cities. Well, we can't get the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. They release him to the street. Well, we got to go to the street and find them. And when we find them, many times they're with others. Others that are in the United States illegally may not be a criminal target, but guess what? If ICE is there arresting that bad guy and other aliens are there, we're going to arrest them. That's what sanctuary cities get. They put us in the neighborhood, they force us in the neighborhood. This is what happens.
Well, that sort of action there you're describing has met with a lot of pushback from local officials, the mayor of Los Angeles, and the governor, who's also very critical of the National Guard being deployed, suggesting that's provoking some of these clashes. It's sort of it is a rarely used maneuver by the president of the United States to deploy National Guard members like this over the objections of the governor to the city streets. So, Mr. Holman, were you part of the decision-making process to deploy the National Guard? What is your response to those in that state who say they're only making the situation worse?
Then they should have taken action the last 2 days while the city burned. I mean, he waited over 2 days for all this violence to say he had an unlawful assembly. I mean, I was there when 1,000 protesters were surrounding the federal building, breaching that federal building, putting our officers at risk, putting the illegal aliens to be arrested and are in custody at risk. It was out of control. So I support President Trump's decision on deploying the National Guard. They're there to protect property and life, not just of law enforcement officers you see being attacked the last couple of days, to protect citizens too. So if they fail to control that city, and we're there, we're going to do everything we can to protect our buildings, protect our officers. And so calling out the National Guard, I think is the right thing to do. I was on the ground. Governor Newsom wasn't. I've seen this for the first couple of days. He didn't. So I think President Trump made the right decision deploying the National Guard to protect life and property. That's exactly what they're doing. And these people that are they can call them protesters. Many are peaceful protesters. Many are not. Many are criminals. We had an incident where someone threw a Molotov cocktail at a law enforcement officer. Now, we've just seen recently what a Molotov cocktail can do. So what I've said I've been attacked for a comment I made a couple of days ago. The rhetoric keeps continuing, the violence keeps continuing. It's a matter of time before someone loses their life. So using throwing a Molotov cocktail to an officer can certainly be met with deadly force. The rhetoric has to stop. People have to stop calling ICE terrorists and criminals and racists, because you're there enforcing the laws enacted by Congress, signed by a president. And that's exactly what ICE is doing. They're enforcing the law. They're not making this up. They're trying to make everyone safer, one illegal criminal at a time.
We should say officials there, Governor, Mayor, also the commissioner of the LAPD, says that the vast majority of protesters there have been peaceful. Mr. Holman, I want to talk about a new tactic here from ICE in recent weeks, it seems. Some arrests made at immigration courts, also at schools across the country. We've seen Michigan, Massachusetts.
Like, do you see this shit? Like, he's legitimately a fucking scumbag. Like, what could you even say? He's a Nazi caricature. For further context, this man was granted parole in July 2022, and ICE released him from detention soon after. ICE hasn't suggested that he violated any of the conditions of his parole or his release by ICE. He wasn't on the run. ICE could have called and asked him to report in. A Vietnamese illegal alien ICE arrested in LA operation yesterday is convicted murderer and gang member who involved in a shooting of a high school graduation party in 1994. So my guess is he wasn't even he didn't even do anything. He was probably just in this gang as an 18-year-old 40 fucking years ago. I'm sorry, 31 years ago. And like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, bro. The 50-year-old Vietnamese gang member? Like, what are you even talking about? It's just nonsense. He wasn't a threat. So the best example they use is a 50-year-old man who's served, 25 years in prison, probably didn't even pull the trigger. He probably was convicted of felony murder for like somebody else doing it. What the fuck are you talking about? See what I mean with these scumbags? And then if somebody like Asmongold were to watch this, he would go like, well, he was a murderer, so he should be deported back to Vietnam. And it's like, the guy probably didn't even pull the trigger. 25 years in prison. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You brain dead dipshits.
A couple in New York City.
Personally, I support California independence. Who here supports Californian independence? Raise your hand if you want California to go independent. Break up the U.S. The South should rise again. Break the United States up to 5 countries. Balkanize the U.S. So you support that, but not land back? Hell yeah, make it land back. We'll do it like, we'll be like Bolivia. Let's do Bolivian style people's democracy.
Are those students, many of the, teenagers for the most, are they public safety threats? Why are they now being targeted at places where used to be children were felt safe? What do you say to parents who now say they're afraid to send their kids to school?
Well, it's ridiculous. Against a false narrative being pushed by the media. ICE, Secretary Noem ended the sensitive location policy that ICE had. Only federal law enforcement agency that had such a policy. That law enforcement couldn't enter a college campus, couldn't enter a medical facility to arrest a public safety threat. And you can't point at one instance where ICE has raided a school. And I see the stories, raided an elementary school, never happened. Raided churches, doesn't happen. Raided a hospital, doesn't happen. However, I'll say this. We did away with that policy because there's no sanctuary in this country for a significant...
There's no sanctuary in this country is the ultimate Donald Trump presidential comment. Yes, Vio? What is this? Just when I'm losing weight. Just when I'm losing weight.
It's a red berry cheese dark chocolate espresso brie pastry, which sounds fucking vile to me, by the way. But I'm sure if you like dark chocolate and coffee, you'll eat this shit up. But ew. Oh, and I poisoned it.
2,000 calories. No doubt. No doubt. How many? 1,200. Theo says it's 1,000 calories. Yeesh. I'm not going to eat this whole thing. I'll eat like a quarter of it, maybe. All right, let's keep going.
Public safety threat or national security threat. There's no sanctuary. Any other law enforcement agency can, for instance, let's say it's MS-13. He's a senior in high school, and he's a public safety threat. When we've been looking for him, now we know he's actually attending class today at a certain time. We're going to work with local authorities to go arrest that public safety threat. It's not about raiding schools, it's about raiding hospitals. It's about, in a rare circumstance, we got to find a public safety threat, a national security threat, and they're in one of these facilities. We're going to arrest them. Again, there's no sanctuary for public safety threats or national security threats. So it's not about raids. It's not about, so people should send their kids to school. We're not raiding schools. It's just a ridiculous concept that the left's pushing that false narrative.
Some of these students, of course, not gang members, those who've been detained. Let me ask you this. You, of course, worked for the Obama administration, an administration that was very successful.
It was hot.
In securing the border, deporting a lot of people, even that Democrats were critical of the administration for doing so. But a lot of the tactics being used now by the Trump administration were not used then, when those numbers were higher than they are now. So why have things changed under President Trump? Is there indeed some sort of quota system put forth by Stephen Miller or others?
Look, I did run enforcement and removal operations for Obama, and we removed and arrested a lot of people. We used a lot of the same tactics. Right now, because of the last 4 years of Joe Biden, we got over 10 million illegal aliens coming to this country illegally, and we got over 2 million known gotaways, 2 million people that crossed that border, weren't vetted, weren't fingerprinted. We don't know who the hell they are. But how many of them came from countries sponsoring terror? We had over 400 people in terror response tests arrested on the southern border in 4 years under Joe Biden. And in the Trump administration, first Trump administration, we had 14. So the situation is totally different. So we got a lot of dangerous people released in this country, and we've seen it case example by case example.
And this is how MSNBC launders Trumpism. They go like, oh, you were appointed by Obama, giving him what? Ethos with the average American lib, which is credibility. So by saying, he's an Obama appointee, he's literally helping Himmler spread race propaganda. I mean, his best example was a murder that happened in 1994, from which the guy served 25 years in prison, and he probably didn't even pull the trigger. That was the example of this public safety threats. A 51-year-old Vietnamese dad Was a gangbanger in 1994? That's your example of public safety threats? Nonsense.
Illegal aliens released in this country with a second-term America saying they're properly vetted, and they weren't. Because when we found them, many of them had serious criminal histories in their homeland. So Secretary Mayorkas said these people were properly vetted. No, they weren't. We never had access to many countries' criminal databases. Many of the countries where these aliens come from don't have any criminal database at all. They don't have the systems we had. So it's a different ballgame right now. The last 4 years of Biden administration, open borders, we know that public safety threats by the tens of thousands have been entering this country, national security threats made in this country. And again, 2 million people paid more to get away. They didn't pay less to an alien smuggler organization to get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, a free hotel room, 3 meals a day, free medical care, and work authorization. 2 million people paid more not to get vetted, not to get fingerprinted. So it's a different ballgame. So we're taking this seriously, and ICE is not making this up. Everything we're doing, we're using laws established by Congress, enacted by Congress, and signed by the president. Even the Alien Enemies Act that a lot of people attacking, Congress passed that act. That's an act that's codified, and we're using every tool available to identify and remove as many public safety threats.
Is it able to put out his slurred speech? No, I mean, there's widespread alcohol and drug abuse among the senior levels of the Trump administration. It's well known. It's well known.
Threats this weekend.
Certainly, you know, some of the critics of these moves say that these policies, those laws, Alien Enemies Act and the like, were not meant for this. One of his toughest critics right now is, of course, California Governor Newsom. We want to give you a chance to respond. Governor Newsom, in an interview with NBC News, said, quote, just get it over with in terms of you arresting him. He says, quote, he's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do it? He knows where to find me. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go. That was the governor of California talking to you.
Well, look, I'm not biting on that. The NBC reporter that interviewed me very dishonest. We did a 20-minute interview, and he cuts out a little clip that makes me and takes my words out of context. Here's what we said. And he talked about when I talked about these people that are these protests and rioting. When they cross the line, they got that. Well, here's why I said they have a right to protest. They have the First Amendment rights, but they can't cross that line. They can't cross that line of impediment. They can't cross that line of putting their hands on officers. They can't cross the line.
Which didn't happen.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin.
I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
Likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look.
I'm actually worried that they do arrest him because 90% of people would support it. If Trump went around and started arresting Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, I would probably go from strongly disapprove to disapprove. That's what I'm scared of. That's what I'm scared of. Is if he actually started arresting these liberals, I mean, his approval rating would shoot through the top, 70%. Can you imagine if he put Nancy Pelosi in a jumpsuit? I mean, like, that's what I'm actually scared of. If he really started targeting the Democratic Party elites and started arresting them, my God, I mean, the approval rating would shoot through the fucking roof. That's scary.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent.
He's grossly incompetent. It would be funny, though, to watch liberals suddenly figure out, oh, maybe we should protest. We should go to the streets. Go to the streets. Like if Gavin Newsom was in a fucking gulag and CCOT, suddenly all these liberals telling you don't wave Mexican flags and nitpicking your protest, they'd suddenly be like, please protest. Please go on the streets, please. Suddenly they'd figure out protesting was a valuable thing to do.
Line and knowing, concealing, and illegal alien, because they're all federal crimes. They're in statute, and they will be prosecuted. When he asked the questions that include Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom, I was clear, they haven't crossed the line, but they're not above the law either. If they commit a crime, they certainly will ask for prosecution. That's what was happening. I never threatened to arrest Governor Newsom, so I'm not biting off on that. It's just that report is dishonest. and let them play the whole 20-minute interview, and you'll see a whole different discussion that we had.
All right, NBC News, of course, stands by the reporting. Border Czar Tom Homan. Mr. Homan, we appreciate you joining us this morning. We'll talk to you again.
You got it. Thanks.
The Nazi regime was filled with meth addicts and alcoholics at all levels of government. Oh, yeah. Of course. Of course. Fascists are incompetent. They always are. And they will continue to be.
David, take what you do best and
right,
create a website that's worthy of it.
After stream today, chat, I'm fixing this
Jacob, we
shit.
mentioned you spoke with Governor Newsom last night, and he and
Jesus
the president
Christ.
continue to exchange barbs on social media. I'm seeing this morning. What is his message in this moment? As we mentioned, he's also threatened to sue the government.
Yeah, he sure has, Anna, and we're watching for that lawsuit to be introduced into the court. We expect at any minute this morning. He says essentially the contention in the lawsuit is that under this Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the way that they activated, as David was describing, the National Guard to come to the streets of Los Angeles without the permission of the governor, they didn't do it in consultation with the governor, which is part of the way the law is supposed to work, according to what Gavin Newsom told me last night. And then you mentioned those barbs continue between the White House and Governor Newsom directly. Caroline Leavitt and Governor Newsom are going back and forth right now. Governor Newsom responded to a tweet from Caroline Leavitt by saying, Caroline, there were no unsolved problems until Donald Trump created them. Now the governor has to send in more law enforcement to clean up Trump's mess. Trump can end this now, rescind the order, and return the guard to the governor's command. Trump created this mess. We'll clean it up. And that's what Governor Newsom has been saying all along here, is that the images that you're seeing on your screen.
Gavin Newsom, we'll do fascism better than you, Trump. Democrat 2028.
Screen right now are only such as they are because of the increased law enforcement presence from the National Guard, and he is looking for the National Guard to return to his control. Anna.
Is there any point in which he would say the National Guard actually is necessary, and in fact we need more people to come help this out?
The governor hasn't said that yet, but Jim McDonnell, the police chief for the Los Angeles Police Department, that is in charge of about 8,000 to 9,000 officers in the city of Los Angeles, has said just about as much last night in a press briefing, that because the situation is now sort of starting to grow, and it is confined to that area, mostly in downtown Los Angeles, he is considering whether or not the National Guard would be helpful to him in their efforts to do crowd control in the city of Los Angeles.
And Jacob, you also spoke with border czar Tom Homan, who's been on the ground there. He's now pushing back on an answer he says was taken out of context when he said anyone who obstructs the immigration enforcement efforts there would be arrested, including Governor Newsom, including LA Mayor Karen Bass. Listen to what he told Morning Joe.
We did a 20-minute interview, and he cuts out a little clip that makes me and takes my words out of context. Here's what we said. And he talked about what I talked about, these people that are these protests and rioting, when they cross the line.
In your view, if they're incompetent, how does that manifest itself? Where is it going to go wrong for them? I mean, it's just like, look at the way they have handled the trade situation, right? Wall Street is now calling Trump Taco Trump. Trump always chickens out because they can't actually achieve it. Look at the budget situation. The budget got through the House by one vote, and now a bunch of the people who voted for it are saying, oh, I wish I didn't vote for that. It has no momentum in the Senate. If you look at this immigration policy, it is targeting what? Those law-abiding immigrants that show up for their hearings and report in when called. Well, guess what's going to happen? He's going to create a widespread lawlessness. Up until the Trump administration, something like 93% of people would show up to their court hearings on immigration. Almost overwhelming social compliance with immigration law. Now with Trump, people are going to learn, don't go to your hearings because they're a lie, they're a trick, they're going to arrest you. And so now we're going to see widespread disobedience of the law. We're going to see more and more people not trusting the systems, which means the effectiveness of ICE is going to decline even further, which is going to mean what? They have to escalate repression. And so their ability to actually carry out their own policies is going to crater because they're incompetent and stupid and lazy and evil. They're actually undermining civil society. Like that's the reality of the incompetence of fascism. The president of the United States just called for the arrest of a city governor. This is a day I hope I would never see in America. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. This is a line we cannot cross as a nation. This is an unmistakable step towards authoritarianism. What are you doing to defend yourself, you dumb fucking cuck, bitch? Please, Trump, arrest him. Please, Trump, arrest him. What America needs is Gavin Newsom arrested. I think that might actually be the only thing that has a chance of shaking Democrats out of their malaise. I don't want Gavin Newsom arrested because he did anything wrong. I want Gavin Newsom arrested just so people understand the stakes. But these cowardly elitist Democrats don't give a fuck about regular people. They will only care when their own asses are on the line.
Right, they got that. Well, here's why I said they have a right to protest. They have the First Amendment rights, but they can't cross that line. Maybe they won't. When he asked the questions that include Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom, I was clear, they haven't crossed the line. But they're not above the law either. If they commit a crime, they certainly will ask for prosecution. That's what was happening. I never threatened to arrest Governor Newsom, so I'm not biting off on that.
Jacob, do you want to set the record straight?
Yeah, sure thing. Tom Homan said we cut a clip and took his words out of context. We did anything but. In fact, we presented the clips in their entirety in all of our airings, including in our reporting on NBCnews.com. He said that it was dishonest reporting. Couldn't be further from the truth. It was completely honest. And I'll let our viewers watch both of those interviews, clips of them right now for themselves. Here you go. And there have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien. It's a felony to impede law enforcement from doing their job.
Do you think that the mayor of LA is doing that?
If she crossed that line, we'll ask the DOJ to prosecute. Do I think she's crossed the line? I don't think she's crossed the line yet.
He did not rule out literally arresting you, nor Mayor Bass, if you interfere in his words. He said you hadn't yet.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me.
So right there in both of the interviews you heard, Tom Homan said, I don't think she's crossed the line yet. And I said directly to Governor Newsom, he said you hadn't yet. So it's right there on the tape. I don't know what Tom Homan had seen, but we were very clear in giving the full context of the statement that he did not believe that Governor Newsom had crossed a line yet, nor did Mayor Bass, but he reserved the right to arrest them if they did, which is what Governor Newsom responded to in the clip that Tom Homan saw.
Right.
CEOs to attend White House event introducing investments for newborns. What a headline, LOL. What? All right, we need to. Can I get some links from XQC and Asmongold's commentary? We need to see me reacting to XQC and Asmongold. These guys are so fucking boring.
Protests over immigration raids have led to arrests in both Los Angeles and San Francisco. Cars were set on fire, flashbangs and tear gas were used to disperse crowds. Parts of a major freeway were shut down. This morning marks the fourth day of protests. You're seeing some of those self-driving cars on fire. Right now, all of downtown LA has been declared an unlawful assembly area. President Trump called up the National Guard to protect federal personnel and property. It's the first time a president has done this without a state's request or consent in about 60 years.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
500 active duty Marines are also prepared to deploy. The entire National Guard situation is setting up a showdown with California's governor. He claims the president is putting fuel on the fire. The mayor of Los Angeles accused the president of being heavy-handed.
When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic.
For every single minute that we were here resisting against the Border Patrol, that was time that they were not out deporting people in our community.
And that's correct. They stopped all efforts to deport people because of these protests. The protests worked. The protests stopped them. This is literally, oh my God. Oh, okay. Oh my God. This is so funny. I had the exact same idea. I didn't see this post. I had the exact same idea. I said, hold on. This is so funny. I said, President Xi, please grant me a squadron of J-10Cs equipped with PL Thunderbolt air-to-air missiles so that I may fight for my country's freedom. What the fuck? I had the exact same idea. Yeah, damn it. Although I didn't ask for J-20 stealth fighters because I'm not greedy. Okay? I understand that China is not going to give us J-20s. Fucking poser doesn't understand. I asked for something reasonable. J-10Cs. Just a modest request.
But President Trump is urging LA's police chief to bring in the troops right now. Police say at least 27 people were arrested Sunday, most of those on the 101 freeway that police shut down. They say protesters threw things onto the road and damaged police cars. Also overnight, a large crowd protested against ICE in San Francisco. About 60 people were arrested there. Joining me now, CNN's senior national security analyst, Juliet Kayyem. Juliet, I want to start with some of the history here because you've pointed out that usually a president can federalize the National Guard, for instance, when a governor requests those resources, when a governor says, look, I'm overwhelmed. I think back to the LA riots, also Hurricane Katrina. Based on what you've observed, is that where we were?
Yes, I mean this is a big distinction of what Donald Trump did. There's a series of cases coming out of desegregation when a governor defied a Supreme Court order and the president federalized the National Guard to get children into the school. So that's a pool of those cases. More recently, instances where a governor has requested additional federal support in the form of federalized National Guard assets or troops. That has always been with the cooperation of the governor and the federal government. So Hurricane Katrina, you exactly...
Mike, there's an update on the arrested union leader from SEIU. He is being charged with felony for impeding an officer. There are currently dozens of protests led by SEIU and AFL-CIO taking place right now. Oh my lord. Uh-oh. U.S. Attorney's Office in LA just sent an email saying David Herrera, president of SEIU California, has been charged with conspiracy to impede an officer. He's been in jail since Friday. He's expected to make his first appearance in federal court this afternoon. Oh boy. It's the Service Employees International Union, one of the largest private sector unions in the country and one of the most powerful unions in California. And they're saying that they're arresting one of the most important union leaders in America and giving him a fake charge.
Noted, and the LA riots in the past, a Republican governor and a Democratic mayor of Los Angeles.
Does anyone have the video of his arrest? I thought there was a video of his arrest.
Both requested this from the president and they were deployed. I want to say something clear though. Simply because they're deployed doesn't mean it's been successful. I am in this field. The LA riots deployment of federalized National Guard was considered chaotic and not very successful.
If there's anybody, if there's any member of organized labor in California that has more connections, I can't think of anyone. It is organized labor's most powerful guy, and they're giving him a fake felony charge? Wow, guys, he was really impeding. Wow, he was really going crazy. So he was at the gate. He was at the gate of the federal facility, and it looks like there's some sort of van coming in, and they were peacefully protesting at the gate. Absolute dog water bullshit charge. First Amendment. Get the fuck out of here with this trash.
We have heard this argument that it can, in some cases, actually we've heard from the governor, I think, can inflame or kind of further fuel backlash. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so this is it's hard to determine what the White House is doing right now. The president and his team came on very strong on Saturday, using words like insurrection. I think getting people really hyped up about
He had
what
his
was going to be
head smashed to
happening.
the
Then there was a
curb. Yeah, I
delay.
think I heard that
Now
too.
there's a couple
Yeah.
hundred troops that are protecting federal buildings. That's an important mission. It could have been done with state National Guard. You didn't need to put them under.
I honestly think that this story, a lot of other streamers are not going to understand what this story means. But if this continues, we may actually see a major uprising brewing in California.
They're still surrounding this entire block. Earlier today, it was protesters surrounding this detention center, but maybe the most important people that stood out in that crowd were a number of lawyers, advocates, and even family members of people who were arrested today.
If you want an idea of what SEIU is the union that helped create Fight for 15 back in 2013. This is probably the most important so-called progressive union in the country. You have SEIU, you have UAW, you have, maybe the Teamsters. Like, this is absolutely crazy.
Trying to get into that processing center to get these folks the help they desperately need. The coordinated ICE raids across Los Angeles Friday morning were met with resistance and frustration. Dressed and armed like they were going to war, federal agents instead descended on a Home Depot in Westlake to arrest suspected immigration law violators.
And I assumed it was just those 3 agents, and then when I turn around, I see that there's a lot of them, just people running, screaming everywhere that ICE was here.
They also converged on a clothing shop called Ambiance in the Fashion District and Ambiance's headquarters in South LA to handcuff even more people. Several local advocacy groups quickly arrived to each of the 3 scenes, including David Huerta, the president of the Service Employees International Union California, who was knocked down and injured while trying to protect his members. Huerta was hospitalized but also arrested for interfering with federal officers. U.S. Attorney Bill Assaley releasing a statement about the incident, writing in part, quote, "I don't care who you are. If you impede federal agents, you will be arrested and prosecuted. No one has the right to assault, obstruct, or interfere with federal authorities carrying out their duties." According to Homeland Security, there were 44 administrative arrests today, including Israel Gotoy's co-worker, who's been in the U.S. since 2022.
3 years ago.
3 years?
Yeah.
And you work with him?
I work with him. Yes, I work with him. He's no criminal, no nothing. He's nice people.
Just works hard.
Yeah, he's working good and nice people. Family, he have 2 children. Yeah, working every day.
Gotoy left the Metro Detention Center without any answers. The stonewalling by the feds even extended to the attorneys who arrived to help those arrested understand their rights.
For the most part, there was a lot of pushback here, not wanting to let attorneys in, not wanting to let families in.
A young woman who didn't want to talk on camera told me they took her father. And when she finally made it downtown, they wouldn't let her talk to him. And she wasn't alone.
So there are families waiting to see their family members that were detained earlier today. They have not been able to see their family members.
Local law enforcement distancing themselves from these ICE raids, including LAPD and LA County Sheriff's Department. California Highway Patrol even saying the FBI was not upfront with their operation when they asked to use a CHP parking lot. CHP says agents assured Highway Patrol this was not for an immigration operation, even though it was. CHP wanting to clear the air, saying they did not and will not participate in immigration enforcement. Meanwhile, for those now detained, which attorneys here say is closer to 200 people, legal advice has to come quickly because they could be moved out of LA before the weekend is over.
We are seeing them move very quickly. People that we have received calls about earlier this week, by the time we got here today, they had already been moved across the country to somewhere else, or they had already been deported.
Yeah, the federal government is moving quickly. On top of that, this detention facility is not meant to be long-term. It truly is a short-term place. That's why we've already heard complaints via attorneys of a lack of bed space. There's no sheets. There's no meals. They're only given snacks, not even toothbrushes to brush their teeth here. Part of the reason that you're seeing them move fairly quickly, that these arrested people are moved to places like Texas or Louisiana that has more space, certainly complicating things for those folks trying to get legal representation, and also for their families trying to get in contact with them. We're live in downtown Los Angeles. Tim Caputo, ABC 7.
And welcome back to Eyewitness News. I'm Jory Rand, live in our Eyewitness Newsroom as we continue to cover breaking news in downtown Los Angeles. Unrest throughout the day. Tonight's violence and confrontation we have been seeing play out since Friday. Mayor Karen Bass just expressed on our air she thinks none of this would be happening were it not for an ICE operation Friday in a Home Depot parking lot. 72 hours of unrest in LA County. We have now seen 3 days of clashes between protesters and authorities. It sparked Friday when federal agents descended upon a Home Depot in Westlake. ICE officials say they were there to arrest violent criminals who are in this country illegally. The agents met almost immediately with resistance. At one point, a person stepping in front of a federal vehicle trying to stop them. The driver kept going, causing the man to fall backwards onto the pavement, nearly running the man over. Search warrants were served in 3 different locations Friday, and people who know those arrested describe them simply as good, hardworking people.
He's no criminal, no nothing. He's nice people.
Just works hard.
Yeah, he's working good and nice people. Family, he have 2 children. Yeah, working every day.
The clashes continued Saturday, beginning in Paramount near another Home Depot, but it was a nearby DHS facility that was being used as an ICE staging ground that drew the crowd. Federal and local law enforcement clashing with protesters in the streets.
You fucking idiots.
Federal and local law enforcement clashing with protesters in the streets. Federal officials had their windows shattered by projectiles. We saw people blocking a U.S. Marshals bus as it tried to drive. Violence continued as some demonstrators threw rocks and fireworks at more federal agents. Frustration with immigration raids have reached a boiling point. The crowd was eventually pushed west over the 710 freeway into Compton, where the confrontation continued. A car lit on fire in the middle of Atlantic and Alondra during a standoff that lasted more than 12 hours. Then, back in LA, once the sun went down, agents in riot gear forcing everyone to the intersection of Alameda and Temple. Some of the protesters leaving the area, others not backing down. The LAPD declaring an unlawful assembly, and President Trump moving to federalize 2,000 members of the California National Guard. That leads us to today. More violent clashes citywide as more than 1,000 protesters went face-to-face with law enforcement in downtown once again, this time with National Guard soldiers on hand guarding the federal building and complex. Protesters shutting down the 101 freeway, setting fire to 5 Waymo cars, and throwing rocks, concrete, even electric scooters onto CHP vehicles still parked on the 101. Several people getting into physical confrontations with police. LA Mayor Karen Bass didn't hold back in expressing her disappointment in how the Trump administration is handling this situation, saying it is the federal government that is stoking this weekend's violence.
I was hoping to prevent this situation from happening. I was trying to encourage the administration that if they deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, it would create a sense of chaos.
The National Guard is there. We have not seen them literally on the streets, just guarding the federal building. It is the LAPD, CHP, and LA Sheriff's Department we have seen as the unrest continues deep into the night. Mark.
LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell meeting with Governor Gavin Newsom earlier today. Our Amy Powell has more on what's been happening and how this is all unfolding. Amy.
Well, Mark, we have to tell you, this has been by far the biggest day of protest over ICE's immigration raids that we've seen. And there have been numerous dangerous and...
Newsom should absolutely tell these National Guard to stand down, or he should order the National Guard to arrest these unlawful federal agencies committing crimes.
Violent incidents. Now, we're standing here on Broadway overlooking the 101 freeway, and in the last few minutes we've heard numerous explosives. You can see there are a lot of people in the street here, and we've seen people setting off explosive devices, fireworks, running through the street. You can hear all the sirens. There are several LAPD vehicles down there. We have some coming by right now, and there go some of those explosives and fireworks we're talking about. And we have seen this numerous times. There's a crowd that has been here throwing some of this onto the freeway. And again, obviously this is a very dangerous situation. This is the kind of activity that police are trying to stamp out here. And we have to tell you, there have been massive crowds of protesters gathering in the streets around the Federal Detention Center all day, angry about a series of sweeps in the LA area during which ICE detained dozens of people, some setting fire to several Waymo vehicles, the blazes sending up thick plumes of black smoke. And tonight we saw people burning other materials on a street near City Hall. Now, many in the crowd have been demonstrating peacefully, but tonight there are still people setting off fireworks and committing acts of vandalism. And we'll send it back to you.
And this is my first view of the Waymos. These are going to be, it looks like these are on the north side of the 101 freeway on Los Angeles Street. And from our other angle, from our other Air 7, we were seeing that one of them was actually on fire. I don't see flames at, I do see the flames further to the right, but we're gonna hold on this shot right now because we can see one individual breaking windows on those Waymos. And there's that other Waymo that's on fire. And all three of these, I think I counted 4, have been completely hit by graffiti, a lot of paint, a lot of words and statements being placed on these Waymos. And this is quite an interesting scene, something that you wouldn't see maybe in the riots of 2020 and before that, because we didn't have these automated vehicles that are kind of easy to corner and easy to stop. And protesters appear to be taking advantage of that and using these automated vehicles as maybe billboards for their message. And unknown what the Waymo's response to this is going to be. Do they just kind of shut down and stay put? Obviously, when they're set on fire, they're probably going to be completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But these are owned by a company. They're not owned by a specific individual. So at least it's not a sole individual that is now at a loss for a vehicle. You have these corporate vehicles that are probably insured, so that's at least one bit of good news. But this is obviously not anything we like to see. We don't want to see things burning in the streets. We don't want to see all these acts of vandalism.
I mean, there's a reason why Waymos are getting vandalized, because they represent removing jobs from a community. Now, I want to say this, chat. It's bad to break the law and damage property. But that pales into comparison to the destroying lives and communities and violence against people. And we don't even know who called these Waymos. We don't know if they are a confidential informant. We don't know if they are even a undercover cop. We don't know if they're a right-wing agitator. That frequently happens. It happened in the George Floyd uprisings. The most extreme radical action was taken by people who knew they had immunity because they were confidential informants. For example, in Denver, the FBI sent in a fake confidential informant, the snitch in the silver hearse. This guy was driving around with guns in his fucking hearse because the FBI was paying him. As racial justice protests broke out nationwide in the summer of 2020, a man driving a silver hearse became a regular at the demonstrations in Denver. He was a paunchy 5'7" with a ruddy complexion who wore military fatigues with patches on the sleeves. Pushing 50 as he swaggered through crowds of teens and 20-somethings, a cigar clamped at his lips. I didn't know much about him, but he drove a hearse. Inside his hearse was a lot of guns, AR-15s, and other kinds of shit. Like, this is the shit. FBI paid violent felon to undermine racial justice movement in Denver. New podcast Alphabet Boys alleges. And this was proven. The podcast is based on hours of secret FBI undercover recordings recording a paid informant who allegedly encouraged violence and destruction and attempted to set up unsuspecting activists and crimes. So whenever you see a fucking thing burning, it's probably Alphabet Boys shit. Stop believing them, you dumb fucks. LAPD publishes crime footage it got from Waymo driverless car. Here's another thing. The LAPD uses these driverless cars as surveillance operations. Stop believing everything you see, you fucking dumbass.
That we're seeing now taking place on the Chinatown side of the 101 freeway. And we're seeing a lot of these protesters move northbound on Los Angeles Street. I'm not sure if that was from the activity that we saw a little bit closer to Temple and Los Angeles Street, where those mounted officers from LAPD kind of clashed a few minutes ago. I'm not sure if that's what's spurring some of these protesters to continue northbound on Los Angeles Street, or if they're just kind of moving forward of their own will. This collection of Waymo vehicles, I think this must have happened in the last 20 minutes or so, because I had eyes on this section of street before Mayor Bass started talking, and this was not here. We were seeing a vehicle, I think that truck is there a little further. If Rob pans to the left, there was a truck with some people on the back of the truck, possibly speaking, making announcements, and I thought that was maybe one reason why people were continuing northbound on Los Angeles Street. But now we see these Waymos that may have just gotten, you know, these automated vehicles maybe don't know that there's a protest. They don't have that programmed into their software to be aware of that, so they probably just drove into it, and people, you know, they know that if you stand in front of it, they just stop, and people are obviously taking advantage of that right now. And you can see one person leaning on the hood, taking a selfie with that Waymo that's on fire.
By the way, there's nobody who's actually done anything. These are people just taking photographs. They're never actually show any evidence that any of these people did shit. Let's see the evidence.
And a lot of messages from protesters being painted on these Waymos right now on a Sunday night.
Yeah, things devolving in some parts of downtown, and you do not want to see this happen.
Fear keeps people paralyzed.
I mean, this is just pathetic shit.
President or Secretary Hegseth. And the reason why you don't do that is because state National Guard work regularly with state police and local police for crowd control, games. The LA is going to be hosting the Olympics. Think of a marathon or a big event. This is happening all the time. So there's training, there's understanding, there's what we call interoperability. The different teams can communicate with each other. When you bring a new entity in, there's no training, there's no cooperation, there's often chaos, and there's a higher probability of friendly fire. This is what happened in the LA riots, is that there was there were 2 instances in which there was almost friendly fire. So we do this to protect, or we don't do this in order to protect the troops and as well as the first responders.
Juliette Kayyem, CNN senior national security analyst, thank you. President Trump has deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles, and that's raised urgent questions about how far the White House will go to enforce its immigration crackdown and how far states can go in resisting. President Trump posted on Truth Social that, quote, order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. The Trump administration is singling out California Governor Gavin Newsom's response to the protests as its main reason for getting involved.
If he was doing his job, then people wouldn't have gotten hurt the last couple of days. Governor Newsom has proven that he makes bad decisions. The president knows that he makes bad decisions, and that's why the president chose the safety of this community over waiting for Governor Newsom to get some sanity.
And the White House's border czar, Tom Homan, is threatening to arrest anyone getting in the way of immigration.
I 100% think that escalation is the right move. Escalation is the right move as far as Gavin Newsom and these Democrats. Go put your lives on the line. Go put your asses on the line, and you will be a hero. It'll be in the history books. There'll be fucking black and white galleries full of pictures of you heroically standing against these scum. This is the easiest fucking shit in history. Just go and protest. Go stand with the protesters, and you will have the easiest career of your life.
Enforcement, including Newsom, who says he's ready for a fight.
The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy.
Joining me now in the group
Even
chat,
Gavin Newsom gets it, but he's too much of a pussy to actually go out there because he knows how everybody hates him. What are the odds they're using high altitude surveillance drones? 100%. I would assume they're using every single piece of technology we have. That means if you have a cell phone that's connecting to a fake cell tower, they're getting as much of your information as they can from that. They're using drones. They probably have some sort of like loitering drone technology that they're using to try to take photos of everybody's face. They are, I mean, they have on the ground informants, everything. Hexagons are always MDQ9s, but in this case, yes, there are 2 MQ9 Reapers over LA today. This is ridiculous. Just ridiculous. If things go crazy and Trump kills protesters, is it full fascism after that? Isn't this thing a Trump will back down from? Isn't this giving him permission in his head to go full dictator? Donald Trump wants to be liked. If you continue to go after him, he'll back down. It's taco. Trump always chickens out. Jaeger Larson, thank you for the 17 gifted subs. Trump always chickens out. So all you have to do is stand up to his fucking ass and he'll fucking back down like the bitch ass loser he does. Jaeger Larson with 100 gifted. Oh, holy shit. Let's go, chat. Let's go. Let's go. We're currently at 6,460 subs, chat. And we have an amazing 35% off discount today. Ham and Fist with the 20 gifted subs. There is never a better time to gift subs than right fucking now. Did we just have a hype train and you guys are just had the shitty one 21 minutes ago, so there will be no hype train. So just give us money. Did you see this?
Stephen Collinson, Republican strategist and CNN political commentator Brad Todd, and CNN contributor Lulu Garcia Navarro. I was talking during the break about whether or not this is still an immigration story, sort of how we're thinking about this moment. Can I kind of open it to you guys?
This is a very perilous moment because what we're seeing here is a fight that President Trump wants to have.
Meaning with blue states.
With blue states, about immigration.
While we were distracted, Israeli forces killed 14 more hungry Palestinians on their way to collect food at Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution points. This is what Israel always does. Israel consistently uses American news, especially protests, to enact greater and greater genocide on the Palestinians. There's a reason why they raided the Gaza flotilla last night, because Americans were distracted by the protests in LA. They kill more kids, they kill more innocent civilians, try to get food. This is what they do. They use American news as an excuse to and distraction, because Israel is an American colony. What Israel does is what America is doing. So when Americans are not paying attention to Israel, they step up the violence. It's a pattern that you see over and over and over again.
About the rule of law and the way that he views it, and also using the threat of military force in a way that we haven't seen in this country, federal military force. I mean, there's discussion of deploying Marines for what is a civil disturbance. This should be of concern, I think, to many, many people in this country. And so I think the context is that, yes, this is about immigration enforcement. Los Angeles is a city where 50% almost are Latinos. The people who have been protesting, peacefully protesting, I'm not talking about the violent protesters here. Violence should never be something that's condoned. But the people who have been peacefully protesting, sometimes they're first, second generation Latinos who are worried about this kind of immigration enforcement. Yeah. And so, you know, this is a complicated issue.
And something we heard earlier, I think in a piece of tape, was a protester saying every moment that we're out here, they're not, he said, in our communities doing raids, et cetera. Brad, what are you thinking?
Well, we got to this moment because California has a sanctuary policy. The state law forbids local law enforcement from cooperating with, or local government from cooperating with immigration enforcement. We have immigration laws that govern the entire land, and California is willfully ignoring them. California's left-wing politicians set this up. If California had long been cooperating and helping enforce immigration laws all along the way, this would not be.
It's not the whole state. You do know that some of this is jurisdictions. There are certain towns that do. Yeah, but there are certain towns that absolutely have cooperated with federal authorities.
Shouldn't they all?
You know, this is part of the issue that is always interesting here, is when Republicans want to talk about states' rights, it's about states' rights when it is something that they're interested in, and not when it is something that perhaps Democrats and their states are interested in. And so I think...
But we've all agreed on what immigration laws are.
Well, there's not a state We're going to talk about this more in the hour. I want to bring in Stephen, because there is something you mentioned earlier about militarization. We're going to come back to your point. But having Marines waiting in the wings is pretty wild, because this is not the LA riot so far, not what I remember growing up with. And
Steve, once
but
the
hold
president...
on one second, Brad. So Stephen brought up this thing saying that the president's not just demonstrating his...
Former Biden officials are defending Trump. Oh, are you? Oh, wait, really? Wait, really? Oh, are Biden, fascist fucking Biden official war criminal defenders defending Trump? Well, you don't say.
As you know, President Donald Trump has ordered the deployment of some 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles. Is this an appropriate use of the United States military?
Well, thanks, Wolf, for having me on. I mean, it is a legal use of the United States military. The president does have the authorization to do that. The difference here is how he's doing it is completely unprecedented.
As you know, President Donald Trump has ordered the deployment of some 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles. Is this an appropriate use of the United States military?
Well, thanks, Wolf, for having me on. I mean, it is a legal use of the United States military.
These are our Democrats, bro! These are our Democrats, bro! Here's the genocidal war criminal defender spokesperson for the Pentagon. Let's go! Under Biden, let's go! These are our Democrats, bro! What did I tell you?
Desire to militarize the crackdown on undocumented migrants, but also implying to use it against protest and dissent. Is that what you see when you look at these images?
I think that's the imagery that the administration is creating. The president tweeted in the middle of the night, posted on Truth Social or whatever it is now, bring in the troops. He wants us to have that imagery of troops on the streets, I think.
But that's because people are seeing this imagery, right? I mean, if you look at the cover of the Post today, dozens of thugs arrested as First National Guard troops.
That is,
Gavin Newsom wants it too.
Yeah,
Gavin Newsom
right.
absolutely wants it.
That comment he said that we saw about him, potentially being arrested, he clearly wants this political fight
to try to become
as well. I mean, there's a lot of peacocking going on, but from the administration's point of view, Trump was elected on a mandate of strong border policy. He sees that. He wants to push that as far as he can. He's sending a message to other Democratic states who he believes do not cooperate with the administration.
To their leaders or to people who might try and protest in the streets?
How do you mean exactly?
The message he's sending.
Yeah, but I think to that point I made in the story, and to your point about the Marines, this is a dangerous moment. The idea of American active troops even being talked about on the street. I remember I was in New Orleans after the hurricane. You had the 82nd Airborne there, and they were there on a much different mission, but seeing American active duty troops on a combat patrol walking through the streets of an American city is a chilling image.
Young, first to you. Tell us what's happening in the protest there. And one key question I have actually is local law enforcement having trouble policing this situation?
Well, since you asked about local law enforcement, let's start with LAPD. I'm standing outside the Metropolitan Detention Center. There was a protest out here, but I'm going to quote LAPD. In their news release, they said last night, yes, there was some spray painting, but what they did was this incident wrapped without incident. So what happened here was, again, without incident. The LAPD is describing it that way.
So in other words, wow, somebody did some vandalism with spray with a $10 can of paint. Oh God, we need to bring in the National Guard. Bitch ass loser.
There was an unlawful assembly, and in protest that does happen. But as far as what the LAPD said, that they are viewing this as something that was manageable and something that they could handle and that they are ready to respond to. But I want to show you what the National Guard response is. Again, outside the Metropolitan Detention Center. I was talking about the spray painting. You can see some of this. This entire block appears to be tagged. But take a look at these officers. These are soldiers, rather. You can see there's about maybe 25 of them standing here in quite a display of a show of force. And each of these soldiers, if Mike, you can zoom in a little bit, they're each carrying a long stick and a rifle. Each one of them is carrying a rifle. It appears to be a lethal rifle. We don't know what the status of those weapons are, but they certainly are here with their uniforms on and an incredible show of force. Armored vehicles also positioned outside of the Metropolitan Detention Center. So what is happening here today? I'm going to have you sweep across this way and just take a look over here. We have a very small handful of people. When I first got here, there was more press than members of the public. There are a couple women who
I can't believe the riots are so crazy.
Shouting at the soldiers. There has not been any confrontation. You can still smell from last night a little bit of the pepper spray that was used, some of the anti-riot measures that were deployed last night. But this appears to be very, very peaceful as of right now. But what I can tell you just from what I'm seeing here, Jim, an incredible show of force here in the streets of Los Angeles. I went by City Hall. We zoomed through downtown, and so far everything here is peaceful. Jim?
Kyung, thanks so much for that update. Good to have you there on the ground. Please keep yourself and the team safe. I want to go to Betsy Klein now. Now, Betsy, of course, this administration typically has quite a deferential approach to law enforcement. As Kyung was just saying there, LAPD says they have the situation under control, though now you have those uniformed National Guardsmen there. How is the administration responding to this, and how are they justifying this deployment?
Well, Jim, there has been so much pressure.
This is what Donald Trump is justifying his deployment with.
To invoke the Insurrection Act.
It depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
Mr. President, do you think if Democrats continue to side with illegal aliens over law enforcement, that they'll ever be able to win a national election again?
I love this guy. I think that is the great. Who are you with? Breitbart News. Great. It's a great group. Breitbart. Great group. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
CNN's Dana Bash suggesting that this wasn't a real riot in Los Angeles.
Is that what she said? Oh, I think it was a riot. I think it was very bad. It was covered really as a riot by almost everybody.
On Camp David, sir, what is the purpose of your meetings at Camp David in the next 24 hours?
We're going up to Camp David. We have meetings with various people about very major subjects. We thought we'd do it at Camp David. There's probably better security there than any place. We'll be meeting with a lot of people, including generals, as you know, and admirals. No. We'll be meeting with military people and others.
Any foreign visitors at Camp David?
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
What's the bar for sending Marines to
the bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Sending active Marines on the table, sir. Secretary Hexon.
We're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Mr. President, do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago, New York, for example, in the next few days?
Yes, we're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
What are the rules of engagement for federal troops?
We'll see what happens. If we think there's a serious insurrection or less than that, we're going to have law and order.
In the last couple of minutes, we did hear from President Donald Trump, who was speaking to reporters just as he was making his way back to Washington, D.C., and certainly to Camp David, I should be more specific with, and in doing so, talked about what he had seen in Los Angeles over the past 24 to 48 hours. He was asked specifically if he was going to invoke the Insurrection Act. The president did not say he would, but said that he was going to maintain law and order, and that is why he ordered the deployment of the National Guard. It has been a tense 48 hours, both in Los Angeles and certainly here as well in New York City, where more and more protests have been.
Can I just say something about Andor, the show? It's so funny because Andor is a pro-terrorism show. Like, they have scenes of the hero of the entire series doing terrorism, and it is seen as like, thank God they did that terrorism just now. It is a pro-terrorism show, period.
Growing in objection to the attempted raids.
It's called rebellion, Mike. Yes, that's the point I'm making. They literally sit at a cafe and bomb and do like a manual detonation terrorist attack.
and raids by immigration officials in this country. It began on Friday when federal authorities attempted to carry out a raid in and around a Home Depot in the Paramount, California area of Los Angeles. That was met by local residents who came to the area and objected to that attempted raid, which led to a standoff that played out over the course of several hours. Throughout the course of those 2 days,
on the Trump administration to ramp up its deportation efforts. President Trump campaigned on that, and in the first months of his presidency, of his second term, he has fallen far short of his stated goals. So we have been seeing increased deportation efforts from ICE, a major crackdown in recent weeks, all of this leading up to the protests that we have been seeing in the Los Angeles area. Now, President Trump making that decision Saturday night to deploy 2,000 members of the National Guard. Members, because in his view, and the White House and other top Republican officials, Californian officials, including the governor, Gavin Newsom, were not doing enough to tamp down that violence. But this, of course, is such an intrinsically political move. A president hasn't unilaterally.
Remember that part in Andor where all the reporters at Gorman made it sound like the Gormans were violent and the Empire had to send its soldiers to keep things from getting out of hand, but in reality, the soldiers wanted things to get out of hand? Yeah, that was crazy, huh? Actually, one of my favorite things about Andor is that journalists are seen by the Empire as being in pro-Empire. The journalists, the television news is seen as pro-Empire. And every time they cut to a member of the media, they're doing pro-genocide propaganda or pro-Empire propaganda every single time. And the one time that Andor uses a journalist credential is when he gets hassled the least by the fascists. The fascists are like, oh yeah, you're on our side. Come on in. I'm so like, I love the fact that there's no scene in Andor where they're like, we need the press to get out the truth. We need the Fifth Estate to keep the Empire honest and true. It's like everyone sees and understands that the media is there to manufacture consent. There's no confusion there.
Called in the National Guard since the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And California Governor Gavin Newsom has said that the move would only exacerbate tensions on the ground. Of course, all of this comes as the Trump administration is weighing massive cuts that could happen in the coming days to federal grants for the state of California. But Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that all of this is a matter of security. Take a look.
These 2,000 National Guard soldiers that are being engaged today are ones that are specifically trained for this type of crowd situation. National Guard soldiers are there to provide security for operations and to make sure that we have peaceful protests. So that's what their work is. And I won't get more specific on that just because we never do when it comes to law enforcement operations.
Now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says that active duty Marines stationed at Camp Pendleton are on, quote, high alert to support as needed. And as for how long this might go on, the presidential memorandum signed last night by President Trump states that National Guard service will last at least 60 days and is up to the discretion of the Defense Secretary. I also want to read you a post to social media from FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. He says, quote, we are not stopping or slowing down. We are not intimidated or apprehensive. Illegal immigration operations will continue, and anyone using violence to obstruct or impede these operations will be investigated and prosecuted. Of course, all of this as President Trump and top officials, including Hegseth and Vice President J.D. Vance, are set to huddle this evening at Camp David. Jim.
Our thanks to Betsy Klein, Kyung La. CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller joins me now for his perspective. Of course, John served a long time in the NYPD. John, just first, if I could draw on your long experience here. Of course, that's just a snapshot, what we saw there with Kyung, the size of the protests and those soldiers there seems to be quite a calm situation. But based on what you saw over the last 24 to 48 hours, was that a situation out of the control of local law enforcement, which we should note, the LAPD has its own riot control units and units trained for riot control. Did the instability there justify or require additional resources from where you're sitting?
I wouldn't say so. And
so in other words, basically, Nobody thinks that. So what is happening here? The Trump regime is trying to escalate violence in LA. That's it. They're trying to escalate.
I also served 3 years in the LAPD as the head of the Criminal Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, and worked with the LAPD through many large demonstrations at the beginning of the Iraqi war and other things. LAPD, by most estimates, had this under control last night, but what we're seeing is a couple of things. Let's break it down because it can get confusing. Number one, LAPD's response on Friday night when demonstrators converged on the federal building, when federal officers were firing pepper balls and gas agents at them. The federal government said it took them hours to get there. LAPD says not true. We were there within 51 minutes, which is the amount of time it takes, according to the LAPD manual, which I'm pretty familiar with, unless it's changed, 45 minutes to organize a mobile field force drawn from patrol units from across the city to get assembled, get to the location, and take control from another agency. They were there within 51 minutes. They said they were hampered by traffic and then getting through the crowds with their vehicles. And then when they got out, they were in a gas environment where they didn't have the proper equipment or gas masks and had to call Metro in to stabilize that. But since that time, they have been operating in their normal disorder control, operations, procedures. So why is the National Guard there? So you've got three things. Number one, they are there, according to the people I've spoken to, both in local and federal side, for force protection. When ICE agents go out on massive operations or big operations, they are there to form that perimeter and make sure that those ICE agents aren't interfered with by some crowd that gathers. The LAPD will not participate in civil immigration matters. When they call for help, though, and say, we need police assistance here, the LAPD will respond to that. And third, when it comes to any kind of protest or disorder, the LAPD should be first in line there, not the National Guard.
One just very basic question. You heard Kristi Noem say that this National Guard unit is trained in crowd control. What degree of training would they have as compared to LAPD's own trained units? And would those weapons that Kyung-la saw that would they have live ammunition in them?
They appear to have live ammunition in them. The magazines are in place. And, if you look at that third soldier from the left, in his magazines, you can see the shell casings from what appear to be live rounds. The training they would have, Jim.
Why do they need gas masks? Are the protesters using gas? No, they plan on using prescribed chemical agents on you. They plan on using chemical weapons on you. Am I joining Hassan if he goes out again? Whether or not Hassan goes out, I always participate in protests. I tend not to live stream or take photos because that's not good OPSEC. And I don't do it for you. But, if he sees me there, he sees me there.
Would be similar to law enforcement disorder control in terms of formation, about how to push back a crowd and so on. But what they don't have, where they do have the training, what they don't have is they don't have the experience. National Guard troops don't have regular experience the way American police does, especially in the last few years, of dealing with mass protests. And, that's where you run into things that are making officials on the ground there uncomfortable, which is, we're a country that lived through Kent State in 1970, where National Guard troops opened fire on a college campus. What happens in this situation when they're on the front line, somebody throws something from the back of the crowd, it hits somebody and they go down? So law enforcement is concerned that they have adequate resources in terms of law enforcement there, and that this is not necessarily necessary.
Yeah. And listen, the history shows just how seldom this has happened, particularly how seldom it's happened over the objections or without the explicit request of state or city officials. And you have to go all the way back, as Kyung-la noted, to the civil rights protests in the mid-1960s. John Miller, I know I am able to bring you back later this hour and beyond. Thanks so much for joining. we're going to continue to keep our eyes on the situations there in LA.
With me now to discuss CNN military analyst Colonel Cedric Leighton. Colonel, good to
Look
have.
at how many fascistic cops CNN has on their payroll. The Zelensky effect, the Shah. Bro.
Have you? First question here. Is this, in your opinion, an overreaction, the president's authorization to deploy National Guard troops?
Yeah, good morning, Victor. I think it is. So, when you look at the report that Julia just gave us here, and you look at the basic situation in Los Angeles, it is nowhere near the last time federal troops and National Guard were deployed in Los Angeles, and that's the Rodney King situation back in the 1990s. So the situation is completely different. There you actually had looting, you actually had destruction of property and the loss of life. In this particular case, you don't have anything like that at all. And it does look, at least from the vantage points that we have here, that the local authorities in Los Angeles do have this under control. So it does seem like an overreaction, and it seems like an unnecessary use of federal power to federalize the National Guard and bring them in.
And from my understanding, when the National Guard troops were deployed in the early 90s to California, that was with the request or under the request of the then governor. And so there was an organized cooperation between local law enforcement and the National Guard. What is, and it's been so long since this has come without the request of the governor, what is the cooperation between the military and local law enforcement who didn't ask for these National Guard troops to come?
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a challenge. So the local commanders on the ground, when the National Guard troops actually get there, are going to have to work something out so that things actually work smoothly. Because you're right, in the 1990s and the early 90s, it was the governor of California who requested of the president of the United States the deployment of not only National Guard troops, which the governor controlled in that moment, but also federal troops. And you look at the absolute differences. So the local commanders, when the National Guard units arrive there, are going to have to work with the LA sheriffs and the LAPD in order to actually make sure that there's no conflict, that the rules of engagement, for example, are clarified, that the troops understand what their roles are, and if they're smart, they're going to stay back and let the local law enforcement handle things unless local law enforcement asks them to step in specific situations. That's going to be the key to all of this. And if that can't be done, then we're going to see not only coordination issues, but the potential for some serious mistakes being made as well from a law enforcement as well as military perspective.
And of course, no one wants to see that happen. Now, that's the National Guard. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, posted on social media that if violence continues, active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton will also be mobilized. They are on high alert. And that's a separate conversation here. What is the scope of authority, considering the constraints and directions of posse comitatus? What can they do if the Marines are deployed into LA County?
So this gets into some questionable areas when it comes to the laws. So what can happen is that under the posse comitatus rules, federal troops, meaning soldiers, Marines, and any other element of the Department of Defense, actually have no law enforcement powers unless there is an exception made. So there are possible exceptions to the posse comitatus rules, but they have to be handled on a case-by-case basis. And the other aspect of this would be if another law, namely the Insurrection Act, is invoked, and that would then allow for troops to be used in a law enforcement capacity. But it seems, based on what we know so far at least, it seems like insurrection is not exactly what's happening in Los Angeles. So it would be a stretch to actually invoke the Insurrection Act and make it possible for the Marines to be used in a law enforcement capacity. They can be used in a support capacity, like we see along the border with Mexico, but it is something that is really based on the laws that we currently have on the books, not a legal move unless certain exceptions.
At my old job, I had customers say they wanted to put sea mines in the English Channel, make sure that any refugee boats sink. I feel like America's about 1 year. I mean, you have to understand that the reason why people feel comfortable saying fascist shit is because they think fascists are inherently cowardly. I want you to understand this is a very, very, very important point. Fascists are cowardly. The moment you start fighting back, they get scared immediately. All right? They get fucking scared immediately. They start crying and bawling their eyes out.
So like they're doing this thing with like these deportations where they bring in like celebrities to deport people, and it made me wonder, what is the probability that Tom Homan would let me go with him dressed up as Ash Ketchum with—
Yo, Asmongold, do it. Come to LA. Asmongold, come to LA. Dress up like Ash. Do it. Asmongold, come to LA. Visit. Swing by. Dress up at Ash Ketchum. Do it. Do it. Do it. Swing by. Swing by, baby. Swing by. Swing by.
Watching them do deportations. Like, I feel like it's probably at least 5% chance, right? Like, I think I think we're at a 5 to 10% chance that this could happen. Yeah, exactly. That'd be really good content.
I can tell you the vast majority of people here just want to be part of the movement. They want to be part of the resistance. That doesn't necessarily mean they want to be part of assaulting officers, of vandalism, of burning cars.
Yeah, but they enable the people that do.
But being part of it oftentimes means you get awfully close to it. And I think that's what's happening with some folks here, that you might not want to be part of that car fire. But guess what? When you drive by on your motorcycle and do some burnouts around it,
this isn't a resistance. This is a democratic election that you lost.
Kind of a show of force, a show of resistance, and it's still going strong. I can tell you the—
Swing by in the Ash Ketchum outfit. Come on, Asmongold, leave the home. You got the money. Come on by. You got that kick money. Swing by. Please come to LA. Please, Asmongold, please. Come to LA. Come, please, visit us. Visit us. Visit us. Make sure you're in your cosplay. Make sure you're in your cosplay. Swing by. Come on. Where'd you go?
Are made.
And some of these assets would be used primarily to protect federal buildings, federal assets first before engaging with civilians?
That would be the wisest way to do this. If you're going to do something like this, you protect the federal areas first, like the federal courthouses, things like that, and that would be one possibility, that they kind of serve as a shield, if you will, for those installations. But if they go into a direct law enforcement role, that would then be a violation of the Posse Comitatus laws, and that would be a problem.
All right, Colonel Cedric Layton, thanks so much.
In a dramatic escalation overnight, President Trump deployed the National Guard to quash ongoing protests.
Mike gets sunburned from his desk lamp. He's not going out. What do you mean? I go out all the time. And yes, I'm white as fuck. I'm far whiter than Asmongold. It's true. My people were in this country very, very, very fucking early. That's true. It's right. I'm white. My ancestors came here very early on. And I'm Scottish and German. And we're talking about Germans that came here extremely early. My family was in here for like centuries before the revolution.
Protests in Southern California. His decision to send 2,000
or a century and a half
troops to Los Angeles followed 2 days of protests against sweeping federal immigration raids in the area. Now, hundreds of protesters clashed with local police and federal immigration agents as law enforcement used tear gas and flashbang grenades to disperse the crowds, some of whom vandalized buildings and threw objects. Now, it's the first time a president had taken the rare step to take control of the state's National Guard since the deadly Rodney King riots in 1992. Now, overnight, California Governor Gavin Newsom called Trump's decision, quote, purposefully inflammatory, and said it would, quote, only escalate tensions. The president posting on Truth Social at 2:14 a.m., praising the National Guard and criticizing Newsom as incompetent, even calling him new scum. But LA Mayor Karen Bass said shortly after that the troops had yet to arrive. CNN national security analyst Juliet Kayyem joins me live now. So Juliet, tell us about the significance of the events that are unfolding and the implications of Trump's move.
So there's what Trump says he's doing and what is actually happening. And then the second one we don't know much about because we don't know the nature of the deployment or where they've even shown up. But even just sort of going by what he's saying, it is significant because the National Guard traditionally and by constitution reports directly to a governor. They are needed as a sort of additional asset that a governor can use to support local and state entities, local police, emergency management in an emergency or disaster. I used to oversee the state National Guard in Massachusetts. They work in tandem with state and local so that there's rules of engagement, understanding of what the mission is. What Trump,
by the way, this kind of liberal splaining of law enforcement actually is just bullshit. Like, this is bullshit. This is PR. Cops do what they want to do, and then the institutions work overtime to justify it and provide cover for it. That's why they call it the thin blue line. That's why they have massive PR. Like, if you want to get a job in PR, the biggest opportunity to get a job in PR is at the LA fucking PD. None of this is true. They do what the fuck they want.
Did yesterday is not typical and quite extreme given the circumstances on the street. Even though there was unrest, that's why police departments exist. When a president federalizes under Title X, the National Guard, he puts them under his authority to be deployed without knowledge of what the rules of engagement are, what the mission is, how are they going to work with locals, and does have the risk of heightening tensions rather than de-escalating. In law enforcement, you want to de-escalate the tensions, arrest those who have committed crimes, permit First Amendment protest, which is allowed, and not escalate it as Donald Trump did.
So, Juliet, we're expecting more protests today. We're also expecting the troops to actually come on the ground in Los Angeles sometime later today. What are you going to be watching for today as the events unfold? And what if the situation leads to what Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said last night? He said if the violence continues there, Marines could be deployed.
Yes, so there's another series of rules regarding whether the military can use law enforcement or serve as a law enforcement agency in the homeland. Some people will know this act, the Posse Comitatus Act. So the deployment of the National Guard under Title X still requires them to take a support mission, at least for now, as far as we know. So it may be that they're just deployed to surround the areas. Again, I am not minimizing the violence that people are seeing, nor that it is unlawful to disrupt immigration, federal immigration proceedings. That, regardless of how you feel about ICE. But that, again, is why we have police departments, state police, to stop it, which is essentially what LA and California said. Secretary Hegseth sort of steps in with a tweet late last night saying that he has the active military, the Marines, on standby. We don't know what he meant by that. We know that Secretary Hegseth hasn't been in charge of a military before. We don't know if that was just him sort of waxing, sort of saying what he wants, but that would have to come under the Insurrection Act, and nothing we've seen so far would qualify for the deployment of active military in the United States under the Insurrection Act.
All right, we'll see how the events unfold today. Juliet Kayyem, thank you so much for your expertise. Really appreciate it.
Or overnight, President Trump said he would deploy 2,000 National Guard troops to quell clashes in Los Angeles, sparked by his administration's sweeping immigration raids there on Friday. Now,
so funny that Newsom is giving them everything the fascists want, yet they still use him as the demon rat, the scapegoat. Yes, because there's never enough collaboration with fascists. There's never enough appeasement. When they gave Hitler the Sudetenland, what did he want? He wanted Danzig. When they let them remilitarize the Rhineland, what did he do next? He built a giant navy. It doesn't stop. Fascists, you give the fascists a cookie, they want a glass of milk. They'll never, ever stop. And the thing is, if you're totally defeated, they'll turn on themselves. They'll start spitting out and turning on themselves. I mean, half the ICE agents here probably have Hispanic descent. They think they're safe just because they're doing the fascist shit? They ain't.
The state's governor, Gavin Newsom, said there was no shortage of law enforcement locally and accused the president, who bypassed his authority, of wanting a spectacle, calling the move, quote, purposely inflammatory. It was the first time a president has federalized the National Guard since the Rodney King riots in 1992, and then it was at the request of the governor. Now, overnight, one crowd of protesters in the heavily Latino suburb of Paramount exhibited violent behavior, the LA Sheriff's Department said, including throwing fireworks at law enforcement. Here with me now is California Congresswoman Nanette Berrigan, who represents Paramount. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start with the fact that the president ordered National Guard troops to respond in LA County within the next 24 hours. What have you heard about the situation on the ground? What updates are you getting?
Well, I've spoken to the sheriffs on the ground who have said they have things under control. There's no need for the National Guard. They have the manpower that they need. So this is really just an escalation of the president coming into California. We haven't asked for the help. We don't need the help. This is him escalating it, causing tensions to rise. It's only going to make things worse in a situation where people are already angry over immigration enforcement. They've seen what's happened over the course of the last several months, where you have immigration showing up to hospitals when women are delivering and giving birth and separating parents from their newborns. We're seeing ICE going to schools, and we know that there is no targeted enforcement. That is the problem. Look, nobody disagrees with targeted enforcement of violent criminals. That is not what's happening here. What happened yesterday in Paramount when this started was there was a staging location. We understand that they were going to go into the Home Depot, go after day laborers. I mean, these are people who are looking for work. These are not criminals. They're looking for work. And so protesters came out. It started peacefully. Then we had federal officers, doing the tear gas, shooting out pellets.
Federal officers, you mean ICE?
ICE, yes. And they were shooting pellets. And, people were there to protest. They're there to protest the mass deportations that are happening. And so it was peaceful. And of course, you escalate the situation. Now you're talking about bringing in the National Guard to militarize the situation. It's going to get worse. It's unnecessary again.
What are you hearing about the National Guard, about how, I mean, we understand it's 2,000,
right?
But how long they'll be there, where they will be deployed?
So we've been told to get ready for 30 days of enforcement, 30 days of ICE enforcement. So 2,000 troops to be there for that enforcement. It's a concern. I mean, it's going to escalate the situation. People are going to protest because they're angry about the situation, and we have to just reiterate to people to do it peacefully, to make sure not to any violence. We absolutely condemn any violence.
So you said that you have spoken to the law enforcement officials that you work with in your district. Yes. On the ground. The LA County Sheriff's Department did describe the protest in Paramount last night as the situation escalated. The crowd of protesters became increasingly agitated, throwing objects and exhibiting violent behavior toward federal agents and deputy sheriffs. What is your message to people who are getting violent?
It's don't get violent. Those are not the people that are coming out to protest immigration. What we've seen, let me tell you.
What are violent people doing?
Okay, so last night when I talked to the sheriff, he had told me the situation in Paramount was under control, that the people that were peacefully protest have left. The situation was now across the street into the Compton area, and this was the unruly folks, that Saturday night crowd.
Average Democrat. Average Democrat. The unbelievable fascism of the average Democrat. The collaboration is bred into them. This is basically saying the Compton area where the unruly people are. What?
The people that were there to actually protest immigration were gone. We agree that if you're being violent, you should be arrested. You should be prosecuted. There is no disagreement on that. I think that's an effort that we can all say. But this is not what's happening. We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting. And we know that California law enforcement, local law enforcement, they're there to protect the public. They're there to protect and have public safety. And that's what they're there to do. Now, when people turn on law enforcement is when you get that response. So we want to make sure that people continue to speak up, that people show up, but that people are peaceful about the situation, and that's what we're continuing to tell people.
Should the protesters, what's your view on protesters who allegedly try to obstruct what ICE agents are trying to do?
Well, I just tell people, look, be peaceful, have your hands up, clear.
Make it very easy for the cops to beat you. Make sure that they're not scared at all, because the cop feeling any kind of amount of emotion is the worst thing that could ever. Make sure when they bash your head in with a fucking baton, make sure you lean in so they don't, strain their back.
Clearly, if you are interfering, you
put your face on, get one of those T-ball stands and put your head right on it.
They have the ability to arrest you, but what they're doing is they're being much more aggressive than that. Just last night, we saw the video of the federal officers.
What an incredible fucking primary opportunity this woman is. Can we get a primary opportunity for this woman? Also, making her member badge into a necklace is the most narcissistic fucking shit I've ever seen. You fucking loser. Get her out!
Being aggressive with press that had press suits on, that were identifying themselves as press. There is just no regard right now, and that is the concern that we have. And we have to remember why this is happening. It's happening because of everything that's been going on for the last couple of months. And this community is saying, we don't want ICE in our community. We want you out. Now, there's a way to do this, Dana. There's a way to do targeted ICE enforcement. It's been done for a long time. And that's when you're going after criminals. And that is not what's happening. They're stopping anybody that's at a bus stop, that's going to shop. We saw that they picked up a U.S. Marshal and thought he was somebody, and they detained him. So they are picking up innocent people. They're picking up American citizens, and then they're detaining them. Now, we also know, of course, the president of a labor union was assaulted and had to go to the hospital, was hurt. Now he's being detained. It's really out of control.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here. I know you're going to have a very busy days ahead of you. It sounds like maybe even 30 days.
Yes,
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
There's this news from overnight about the president deploying the National Guard, federalizing, really the first time it's been federalized since 1992. Are you comfortable with him doing?
I can't watch these fascist fucks. All right, that's what we're going to call it right now. I personally am calling for Asmongold to swing by L.A. Asmongold, swing by LA in your Ash Ketchum costume. Come cosplay right now. Show us how tough you are. Come on by. Swing by. Breathe some fresh air. It's really nice weather in LA. Swing by. Swing on by, buddy. Live stream it. Swing by. We can set up a Compton meetup for you. Who wants to go to the Compton Asmongold meetup? You'll be so famous.
Hassan's team that also sent
now
me.
That would be content. That would be content. Can you imagine Asmongold coming to hang?
Message, okay? I'm reading it to you. Urgent. Arrest of the Freedom Flotilla crew by Israeli forces. Rima Hassan, Greta Thunberg. Interception of the Freedom Flotilla by Israel. Illegal detention of 12 humanitarian workers and peaceful activists, including French MEP Rima Hassan and Swedish activist Greta Thunberg. We express our strongest outrage following the interception today by Israeli authorities of the Freedom Flotilla, a vessel carrying humanitarian aid intended for the civilian population of Gaza, which had been subjected to a total blockade since March 2nd, 2025. On board the ship were 12 humanitarian workers and peaceful activists engaged in a strictly civilian, nonviolent mission. Among them were French members of the European Parliament Rima Hassan and Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, both widely recognized for their commitment to human rights and international justice. This interception, carried outside Israeli territorial waters, constitutes a blatant violation of international law, including maritime and humanitarian law. The arrest of the crew members and the confiscation of aid intended for a population of immediate humanitarian distress is unacceptable. We call upon states, the European Union, the United Nations, and the entire international community to strongly condemn this illegal detention, demand the immediate and unconditional release of all crew members, urge Israeli authorities to allow humanitarian aid in Gaza in full compliance with international law. It's the responsibility of all nations committed to human rights to speak out against these flagrant violations of international law by Israel. Solidarity is not a crime. Free the Freedom Flotilla's crew. And then there's a contact number. Why isn't this national news? You mean international news? It's supposed to be. It's just that
I type mold when talking about the desk lamp, and I'm a mobile chatter and autocorrect fucks me. Replace it with Mike, please. I'm sorry. Oh, I mean, it's okay.
I think part of it is all of the fascist governments are doing fascism in real time at the same time. They've decided that today is a good time to do it, you know? Today is the time where they were like, this is a fantastic opportunity to do fascism today. Here's Greta Thunberg's pre-recorded message from, I guess, like right before their capture. We're going to take a look right now.
Thunberg, and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends.
Can I just say that Greta Thunberg is fucking so cool? And any criticism I ever had for her was total. I don't remember criticizing her a lot for a long time. I think I've kind of been a fan of hers for a long time, but maybe back in 2019, I thought she was going to be an annoying lib. I was so wrong. If I ever thought that, I don't know if I did or not, but if I ever did, I was wrong because she's fucking cool.
Family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, they recorded these before.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden.
Apprehended.
If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces.
I guess they made the video before because she says by
Israel.
International authorities align with Israel. She says either kidnapped by the Israeli government or by other international forces. So moments before the Israeli forces abduct the activists.
Please go to our places. من فضلكم خذوا مواقعكم. من فضلكم لا تتحركوا.
ما الذي يطلبون؟ هل هذه قوارب إسرائيلية؟ هل لديكم أي معلومات عن هذه القوارب؟
الآن القوارب السريعة وصلت إلى.
They drop chemicals on them.
الأمر مسالم وهذه عملية مسالمة جدا. يطلب منا رفع أيدينا ولهذا مشاهدينا سأتخلى عن الهاتف في هذه اللحظات وسأحاول أن أبقي الصورة بقدر الإمكان.
They dropped chemicals from drones and made them throw their phones into the water before detaining them. What the?
Assume positions. That's not a position at all. Rima cannot be here. Rima needs to take a seat. Assume your position. The position that
They started jamming the radio so they could not ask for help. Then drones dropped white chemicals on the ship. After that, they got invaded, kidnapped, and everyone taken to a naval base for interrogations. Oh, UV paint for tracking. Yeah, makes sense. Fantastic. So yeah, they just drop paint, probably to track them easier. Yeah, it looks like it's just paint. Oh my God, it's the "oh, you don't like Israel" accent in real life trying to kill you. Yeah, it probably hits way different when you're directly in the presence of Israeli concentration camp guard or like a Gestapo person, you know, because like they also have guns trained on you. Here, let's take a look at the video.
Did you see Pierce have an absolute bitch fit on what?
As well, SOS messages to follow. This is like one of the last videos from inside of the ship.
Guys, oh my God!
Mobilisez-vous! Mobilisez-vous! Go to our places! Ditch the phones! Ditch the phones! Ditch the phones! Yes. Phones in the water, please!
Oh, shut up, Greta Thunberg, you attention-seeking narcissist. What is an insult to the actual hostages in Gaza who were really kidnapped? This stupid stunt is all about your ego and will make zero difference in the plight of innocent Palestinians caught up in this dreadful war. Dreadful war? You mean genocide? I thought it was a genocide. Also, trying to run a blockade is brave, you stupid fucking slime. You worthless sack of shit. Trying to run a blockade and putting your ass on the ship to do so is brave as fuck.
Has Israel given up trying to justify their actions and gone full comic book villain? What Hosber even justifies going after them? I don't think you understand. Right now for Israel, their thing is, oh, well, we kidnapped them because and we didn't kill them, right? Like that's the argument is going to be we kidnapped them instead of killing them. What more do you want? I'm pretty sure that they think that this is like good PR. Like last time someone did this, we killed them. This time we just simply, well, first we drone strike the previous boat off the coast of Malta. Okay. And this time it's just, they're going to these guys and say like, oh, these are activist terror. These are terror activists. They are there for terror. They are doing selfie. Yeah, or they're calling it the selfie yacht. All the passengers of the selfie yacht are safe and unharmed. They were provided with sandwiches and water. The show is over. Israel makes a photo op out of offering international hostages food and water after kidnapping them for trying to bring food and water to starving Palestinians in Gaza. The anti-Semitic aid ship.
The anti-Semitic aid ship. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would never take anything from an Israeli. Ever. They handed a guy a sandwich that he immediately put down.
So the strategy is working. Their public profile is keeping them safe. Yeah, they're disgusting little freaks over there at Israel, as you guys know. So I think they think this is banger. They think this is a banger propaganda photo op. Greta Thunberg is currently on her way to Israel safe and in good spirits. Like, an asshole. Serious question though, especially in mainstream media, is this going to be good PR though for Israel? So many people already randomly hate Greta for climate stuff and being performative. Like, I'm telling you, they're going to.
If you hate Greta for being right about climate, you're already a dumb piece of shit.
Hey, at least we didn't kill them. What more do you want? Like, that's literally their PR. They're like, we're vicious monsters, but at least this time we didn't kill them. Do they actually believe that people will buy this propaganda? Maybe your grandparents might. Who knows? They might be like, look at how tolerant Israel is. Look at how tolerant and not monstrous Israel is. They could have just as easily killed these guys, you know? They would do the same with Palestinians. It's not a genocide. If it was, we would have killed everyone by now. Yeah, I mean, that has been their point. Oh my God. Liberal Zionists will buy this so quickly. I mean, who cares about what they have to say?
Assume position, please, everyone. No water. No water. My computer. I have plugged the computer.
If somebody hates Greta, it's the same. Yeah, no, totally agree with you, Riders on the Storm. If somebody hates Greta, if somebody hates me, or somebody hates Hassan, that is a big, gigantic red flag that they are a fucking evil piece of shit. Like, if you hate us, you're an evil piece of shit. If you've just like seen content and you generally have some sort of like misapprehension, that I can understand. But if you actually hate Greta Thunberg, you're a fucking evil little gremlin. Like an actual gremlin. God. Well, chat, we're 9 subs away from 400 on the day. Don't forget that for a limited time, we have 35% off. 35% off gifted subs right now. That's an incredible deal. We're gonna have to talk about this. Oh, CBDB. Thank you for the 10. And look at that. 6518. Look at that. Our goal is to get back above 7,000 this week, chat, because that's the number that pisses off Ethan Klein. Speaking of Ethan Klein, can we have a little bit of fun before we go? Pat and Panada put together a video. Which so thoroughly debunks the idea that H3 was ever good. And let me just say, I am proud to say that I thought H3 always sucked. I was the first person on the H3 was always dog shit. I hated leftovers because Ethan Klein sucks. I was on that beat. And then Bad and Panada has delivered the ultimate refutation of all the CPS whining that Ethan Klein is doing with this unbelievable video. H3 always sucked. The hateful legacy of the talentless Kleins. And that is 100% accurate. TradeJet, Eclipsors, thank you so much for supporting the stream. We have a hype train going on. Let's fucking go. Thank you guys so much.
Review Ethan Klein's old content, which a lot of people use as an excuse for liking him. You know, he used to make good videos. I wish he was like the old H3 with the goose and the guffs. He was such a funny man. He was a funny comedian. And let me tell you, there was not a single funny thing about this man ever. The single least meritorious YouTube success story you've ever seen. It is absolutely insane that anyone ever pretended that this guy was funny or deserving of the position that he's in, rather than someone who just got there because of the terrible taste of a large portion of the YouTube audience and complete dumb luck. Let us begin with one of Ethan Klein, the funny man's videos, right? I'm going to begin with probably the least bad of the Ethan Klein videos. So I'm going to begin with something that like maybe kind of sort of was funny, but not because of him. And then after that, I'm going to show you the example of like an example of what he was actually like when he was trying to produce something more original and make jokes for himself. Ethan Klein is someone who always endlessly claims that he's being harassed, he's under attack. Basically, whenever someone responds to him, he frames it as harassment, and he frames it like basically like they're on a campaign to kill him and stalk him and stuff. Which is very funny because he has not made a single piece of original content in his entire career. He's never done that. All of his videos are him attacking other people. It's always him pointing at someone else.
That's so funny about Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein's entire fucking career is just him being a nerdy online bully.
It's either one of two things, like laughing at that person's expense or like attempting to spur harassment at that person. His career does not exist without attacking others. He's never made a piece of content that is not like gossiping about others, harassing others, laughing at others. He's never made anything original. For this fucking guy to complain now that people are like looking at him and attacking him for way more valid reasons than he has ever attacked anyone before is fucking comical. Every single one of his videos ever is unoriginal and simply him and his wife attacking someone. Every single one of his podcast episodes is unoriginal and simply him and his wife gossiping about others, YouTubers, celebrities, whatever, all for no reason whatsoever aside from to generate content of it. Because there's absolutely nothing in his own content that is at all original or interesting or special or worth paying any attention to whatsoever. It's completely unmerited garbage. So a great example of this stuff that I'm going to show you here.
Thank you for gifting 5 subs as well.
It's like this video that he made is actually somewhat funny, but it's not funny because of anything that Ethan Klein does. Ethan Klein is extremely unfunny. The funny part of the video isn't his reaction, it's the video that he's reacting to itself. Like, the video itself is so unintentionally funny that it's funny. And Ethan Klein himself is just fucking cringeworthy. His attempts to be funny fall so flat, it's amazing. Like, let's look at Ethan Klein's skit, and let's try not to cringe. Let's watch this skit that does at the beginning and see how funny it is.
Kids, have you ever wanted to jerk off?
So the first thing that he does is talk about kids jerking off, by the way. This is someone who constantly accuses others of pedophilia. And the pedophilia is a pattern in his content. We'll be getting to that in a second.
But your parents blocked the naughty sites? Well, today we're introducing a new platform for YouTube. It's called Jerk Your Little Ding Dong on YouTube. You can masturbate on YouTube now.
So the jokes are just like vulgarity, weirdly uncomfortable sexual mentions involving children, and belching and making disgusting
he also is wearing a silly hat and glasses and holding his neck back to show his rolls. You know, he's showing his double chin.
Noises. Very funny.
It is 2015 and we are just thinking, you know, these kids need a better way to jerk off, a safer way.
If you ever like this, you need to look back at who you are and who you are. Because there's a problem here. This is just like, who ever found this funny?
So introducing, you can jerk it off on YouTube.
Wow, that was fucking hilarious, wasn't it? That's his attempt at original comedy. Now, I'm going to show you the actual funny part of the video, okay? The funny part of the video isn't Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein's reactions, what Ethan Klein says. Ethan Klein's sense of humor is, one, I'm going to watch something that's actually funny, and I'm just going to repeat what they said, maybe in a funny voice. Or, I'm going to say the thing you're not supposed to say. Like, I'm going to say something vulgar, I'm going to repeat what this other person said that was actually funny, or I'm going to, like, burp and make noises. Very funny.
This is 2015. We have incest porn on YouTube. Gives new meaning.
Wow, that's very funny.
To YouTube Red, you know what I'm saying?
That was a fucking great joke, wasn't it? Gives new meaning to YouTube Red, you know what I'm saying? Whoa! Dude, that's fucking hilarious. This guy's a comedian.
I just can't help it. You just gotta dance when you hear that beat, dude. All right, I'm ready to jerk off.
Wow, that was fucking comical. I'm ready to jerk off. That's the pinnacle of comedy.
What up, invaders? Chris here. All right, so today
So this is the actual funny part of the video. Nothing to do with Ethan.
At Venice Beach, and it's No Clothes Family Day.
No Clothes Family Day? Did I hear that right?
Okay, so what's the funny part here? Is it this fucking hilarious guy who he's unintentionally hilarious, he's hilarious all the same. He came up with the concept of No Clothes Family Day in order to like pay actresses to kiss him on the beach while they're in bikinis. That's the funniest concept I've ever heard of in my life. But it's not funny because Ethan Klein's there. It's funny by itself. All that Ethan Klein does is repeat what the guy said like 5 times in a row, and that's the joke.
No Clothes Family Day.
No Clothes Family Day. That's the day we all know and love where you walk around with no clothes in public with your family.
No Clothes Family Day.
What are you, living under a rock? You ever heard of No Clothes Family Day? It's where you give a stranger a blowjob in front of your grandparents while your grandpa checks you out and jerks off. It's completely normal. You guys never been to Venice Beach? It's everyone's favorite day of the year. No Clothes Family Day.
No Clothes Family Day.
My grandma watched me contract HIV last year. It was really fun.
Like, you notice how there's not any joke? When he tries to make a joke, even when he's given a fucking layup from this comical video, it just falls flat. He just repeats the unintentionally hilarious shit that the guy said, and he's like, what's some random sex thing I can say here? Great joke, man. Really funny.
Fun. She's lucky she didn't get it. There was fluids everywhere. Grandma's okay. She's got a lot of other health issues, but HIV is not one of them. Although
you get the point, right? The funny part of his supposed magnum opus style content, like the supposed glorious H3H3 reaction videos, it was never him. Never ever was it him. It's just he saw a funny video and he uploaded it with his own unfunny reactions interspersed. But the funny part of this is this fucking genius came up with No Clothes Family Day. He's a genius without knowing it. The No Clothes Family Day, the concept, the idea of that, the idea that like someone came up with that concept and like totally straight-faced made a video where they like walk up to like supposed families in the street and ask them to kiss them as a prank. That's the funny part here. It's not Ethan Klein's reaction to it. Like, what original content did Ethan Klein ever make? One video that's supposedly original, like his supposed magnum opus. Vape Nation! What is Vape Nation? It's a guy, incredibly unfunnily, I have to sign in to confirm my age, I'm not doing that. But it's a video of a guy, it's not even original by the way, calling it original is a joke. It's a guy repackaging 1990s like stoner humor as if it was something new for an audience of 10-year-olds. And doing it incredibly incompetently and in a cringeworthy way because he's just not a funny person. That's like his singular supposedly original piece of content is that. It's fucking horrible. So as you can see, Ethan's content was dependent on other people's content. It was just dependent on him laughing at others. Some of them deserved it, some of them not so much. Some of the ways in which he mocked it.
It was literally a ripoff of a Tim Heidegger bit. Like, it was literally just plagiarized. Like, I think Badapanada is giving him too much credit. It was just literally plagiarized. I don't think that it was like a derivation of 90s stoner humor, but brought up to the vape era. It was just a ripoff. He just made the same bit again.
Others were so disgusting that it drove people almost to suicide. One of these people was a guy named Patrice Wilson. So Ethan Klein made a video about Patrice Wilson. If you don't know who Patrice Wilson is, he is the guy behind Rebecca Black's Friday and like the comical Chinese food song. Basically, he was a music producer who would be contracted by the families of rich kids. And he would like write and produce for them like really comically stupid songs. Some of them actually went very viral and probably made a lot of money. Like Chinese food. This is the greatest song ever. What? This is so fucking good. This is fucking fantastic. Patrice Wilson is a fucking genius. How could you not love this guy? This is an incredible song. Everything about this is amazing. What this guy made is like just cringe songs for kids, basically. And Ethan Klein's reaction to that was to just totally ruin this guy's life by accusing him of pedophilia. And Ethan has since deleted the main video in which he did this, but there are archives of it.
I will say, you click on the Chinese food video and you're immediately recommended Sam Hyde. Is that right? Look at this algorithm. Why wasn't Stalin ousted and Sam Hyde's 2070 paradigm shift? What?
So this video disgracefully only has 82,000 views, but it goes over this whole saga of what Ethan did to Patrice Wilson. Ethan ruined this guy's life for content. He completely ruined this guy's life for content, and he did absolutely everything to this guy, as he has done to many other people, that he claims others are doing to him. Except what he did to this guy was totally unwarranted and based on absolutely fucking nothing.
He's not logged in. Grev, he's not logged in.
So this video is from Paige Christie. It only has 82,000 views is a fucking joke. Ethan Klein made a video where he expressly accused this man of pedophilia for making cringe fucking songs for rich kids. As I said, he had two ways of making videos. One of them was just showing you a funny video that someone else made while being totally unfunny himself in his reaction to it. The other one was attempting to ruin other people's lives through things like this for accusing them of being...
Now, I want you to remember, chat, this is a man who broke down and cried because someone, he doesn't know who, apparently reported him to CPS, and they got a clipboard visit. And he's been trying to cry and self-victimize over that for months now. Now, remember, he also said that there was parasites spreading throughout his house on his own live stream. All right? He directly said that on his live stream. I'm not saying you should have called CPS. I'm just saying the idea that one of the communities who doesn't like him did it, there's no evidence of it at all. So keep in mind, he's crying, complaining that he got a CPS visit.
Pedos.
Beautiful face. That's like the soft face, man.
And he also goes on to call him terms such as Blackzilla and says that Blackzilla likes to rape the little 8-year-old white girl with blonde hair. He likes them white and blonde.
Huh? What happened? Patrice is unhappy. Watch out. Some kids' lives are about to change forever. Patrice was like, that's that look when a couple kids' lives is about to...
Ethan watches like a fucking video, like a music video made by someone who like specializes in making fucking kids dumb, incredibly stupid songs for kids, basically. And his immediate thought is sex. His immediate thought is to sexualize the kids.
Change forever, for the worse. This image is pretty twisted up in itself.
What the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck is Ethan Klein talking about? I mean, let's just, first of all, they're not mentioning it, but this is also blatantly racist. A black man who he immediately turns into a porno actor, right? Who's gonna then sexually assault a kid. There is nothing about this sexualized at all. Nothing inappropriate at all. Ethan Klein is a fucking freak.
He's holding what looks like a phallic object.
It's the letter A. It's the letter A, and he calls it a phallic object.
A little 8-year-old girl and a big, giant black man looking in on her,
like,
man.
Listen to how he said the word black there. Listen to the way he said the word black. Just listen to this.
In on her, man. It's like Blackzilla. In on her, man. And a big, giant black man looking in on her, man. It's like Blackzilla.
Fuck?
This guy's got a weird fantasy, dude. Blackzilla, a little 8-year-old white girl with blonde hair, likes it. He likes them white and blonde.
He's totally bringing this like sexualization of these children out of fucking nowhere, just completely out of nowhere. And he uses this to justify
it's not out of nowhere. It's out of his own mind.
This guy a pedophile. And I'll show you evidence of this later on, but as a result of the multiple videos that Ethan Klein made accusing this guy of being a pedophile in this manner, the guy's life was actually ruined. Like hundreds of thousands of people accused him of that. He got insane harassment. People reported him to the police and he was investigated for it and stuff like that. Basically, all the things that Ethan Klein today claims to be a victim of, but he's not actually, he actually did to this guy for real.
To insinuate that Patrice is masturbating the video.
Watch his face light up, dude. Because he knows he's about to have a good fap. Watch
now
this.
Remember, chat, this is the same guy in the same space who sexually harassed a terrorist victim, a teenage girl who was a victim of a terrorist attack in the Boston Marathon, and he zoomed into her crotch and sexualized her. Check this motherfucker's hard drive.
Get a look at his face. Oh, that's gonna be a good fat boy. Starts to nod and shit. Watch this shit.
This is the supposed like classic H3H3 productions that you all knew and love. You should be embarrassed that you ever like this.
Yeah, boy. About to get a good fap on, son.
Now, I'm gonna skip the rest of this and I'm gonna go to like the part where he he literally mimes calling the police on this guy, something which incited his fans into actually doing so. Think about this: when you see this guy complaining about supposed CPS calls, remember that he did this.
He wants to eat your children.
And the video ends with Ethan Klein pretending to call the police to report Patrice Wilson for child offenses.
Hi, I'd like to report a crime. Yeah, my name is Ethan Klein. Okay, I just witnessed on YouTube a man and eating a minor. She was 8. She was only 8 years old. I saw it on YouTube right now. Okay. Okay, dude, I just saw it on YouTube. He was eating and raping a little 8-year-old girl. His name is Patrice Wilson.
This video, as of today, has 3.3 million views.
This video has since been deleted, and Ethan never publicly acknowledged deleting it. He never publicly apologized to Patrice. He never said anything regarding what he did to this guy. Him and his fans thinks that what he did was like hilarious.
On January 3rd, 2015, H3H3 Productions released another video pertaining to Alison Gold.
This one is like the Chinese food video that I just showed you an excerpt of. It's like, it's obviously like cringe and stuff, like unintentionally funny, but it's fucking inoffensive. There's nothing about it that warrants you accusing the fucking guy who made it of pedophilia. So surely he's not going to do that, right?
And her latest video at the time, Chinese food. Klein starts off by referencing the previous video.
Hey, remember that video we made 2 or 3 months ago about that black guy that was eating and raping like a lot of kids?
Yeah, Patrice Wilson.
There's Hila participating in this, by the way. Remember, she's just as responsible as Ethan. They were a team on these videos. It was never just Ethan.
That was funny. That guy's definitely a pedophile.
Well,
I mean, like, what the joke is that guys, what's really funny is he's finding a random guy and just calling him a pedophile and inducing his fans to call the cops on the guy because he made a cringe video for money. He made a cringe music video. Somebody's parents came to this professional music producer and paid him to make a music video for their daughter. Wow. I guess we should just call the cops on him for being a pedophile now. That is Ethan Klein.
Well, it was just one video. You didn't know.
What? Just one video? Hila, this is Patrice Wilson we're talking about. This is not something that someone just does once. If we went to a YouTube...
Ethan Klein's idea of humor was defamation, accusing someone of child sex crimes baselessly. Remember this when this guy screams about defamation because people are accusing him of saying something that he factually said about his house being covered in shit. This is how Ethan Klein got famous, off doing this to people. This is his content. This is who he is. This is
why he's melting down so much, because we're pushing back and fighting back. And for the first time in his entire career, people fought back. And he's the first time in his entire career, he's been knocked back. He's the lol cow now.
He's always done.
Right now, I guarantee we click one random video and he's gonna be on the ground, rolling around, touching and tickling with a little girl, dude.
So, the video, of course, ends with them
I can't believe he didn't sue his ass. He should have sued Ethan Klein into the fucking ground for this shit. There was real harm done to this guy's life. He was investigated. He lost his career making these music videos. Like, no, he should have sued Ethan Klein for millions of dollars. I'm actually sad that he didn't.
Him a pedophile.
Too. So we've got black, not traditionally a rainbow color, but he likes it al dente. So you don't need black, and that's where it becomes really important. So he's black. He's eating red, you know. So her innocence flies away. Teresa's feet.
Like, all of these videos are just Ethan Klein projecting his sexual thoughts about children onto another person to ruin their life by branding them as a pedophile.
This is gross, dude. Well, what do you think now, Hila? Is he a pedophile? What do you think?
Slurgo, thank you for the 10 tier 1.
We need to call the FBI.
This is someone who is currently complaining about being reported to the FBI for charity fraud, who was actively inciting people to call the FBI on someone for baseless defamation that he's a child sex criminal. And he did this to Patrice Wilson for like years. So after this happened, Patrice Wilson like tried to deal with it. He like made a cringe little like self-produced movie that was supposed to be a metaphor for like what these people had done to him. And he tried to do like a viral marketing campaign for it that failed. And Ethan Klein tried to spin that attempted like ARG that Patrice Wilson did as like a threat against him to try and victimize himself. And there is a video of Patrice like talking here about like how this affected him, what happened, like people branding him as a pedophile and stuff. This guy's career was ruined by this, by the way. He was like a relatively successful guy who made, I don't know, it's not really a genre, is it? But he made like cringe music videos for rich kids. And he was clearly quite successful. And his career was just totally and completely fucking ruined. So here is Patrice talking about what happened to him as a result of Ethan Klein making these supposedly funny videos where Ethan Klein projected his own pedophilic desires and his own pedophilic thoughts onto this other person.
I get death threats every single time. People like, you know, we want you dead. You bloody child. You pedophile. You rape.
That's the thing with a lot of these communities, like communities like Ethan Klein or Destiny, it's a bunch of like shut-in guys that are failures in life looking for an outlet for their frustration and aggression. And that's what Ethan Klein and Destiny provide, right? A community nominated 2-minute hate. You're allowed to hate this guy. He's a bad person. Made up reason. Total bullshit reason. But they give these guys, these fucking losers, a target, and they're not used to the target being able to fight back. Well, they've chosen poorly.
After a while, it's thinking into my head, and the whole suicidal thoughts there, like kind of coming in my head. Maybe it would be better off if I wasn't here. But you know what? I said no. I said no. I can't let it happen, because the thing about it is that if I'm not here, people would say that deserves to die.
So basically this guy ended up dropping off like the face of the earth as a result of this. He went from being like a relatively successful producer of like cringe music videos for rich kids who got like millions of views.
Rebecca Black, one of the videos he made, she became a fucking celebrity from it. She got far more out of it. Like, her parents paid this guy to make a music video, and she became a fucking celebrity from it. They got it beyond their words, money's worth. Like, she's still huge. She's still known. You guys know who Rebecca Black is. She was just in like real music videos to this day. She has a career because of this guy, and he's off the face of the earth because of Ethan Klein. That's so fucked up. Like, somebody should ask Rebecca Black how she could help him because of what Ethan Klein did to him. It's actually fucked up. I don't blame her for this. She was just a kid. But like, you should go back and say Patrice is cool. They should do another music video or something to redeem this guy. Maybe they, like, you know what I mean? I feel so bad for this guy because he was targeted and he didn't have the wherewithal to fight back.
A couple of his productions.
She went on Ethan's podcast. Ugh.
To just dropping out of the public eye completely as a result of Ethan Klein's harassment. Ethan Klein multiple times inciting this harassment against him, this defamation against him, branding him a pedophile and child sex offender, which incited tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to harass this guy. Ethan himself directly incited people to call the fucking cops on him after accusing him of child sex crimes. So, yeah, this is Ethan Klein, the victim. He's always been like this. All of his content has come at the cost of others. And for like, however cringy this guy was, at least he made original stuff. He was still way more worthy of success than Ethan Klein ever has been, simply by virtue of that. All that Ethan Klein has ever done is make content attacking others. Sometimes they deserve it, a lot of the time they don't. But it's never ever just Ethan Klein himself being funny, or, you know, you watch it because he's doing something original or great or unique, something special that he brings to the table. No, it's always just Ethan Klein shows you something while making belching noises. Or Ethan Klein tries to ruin someone else's life by branding them as a pedophile. Ethan Klein viciously attacks these people. Ethan Klein gossiping about other people. Like, you've seen his recent fucking videos. Like, he just made a fucking 3-hour-long live stream where he tracked down someone who previously had provided a service, like a boxing trainer, to someone who he had like a vague acquaintanceship with in the past, as if this was like some sort of revelation. Like, Ethan Klein has always been like this. He's always been like this. It's nothing new. His content has always been based around viciously defaming and attacking others. He's never produced any...
She was on Ethan's podcast on the same episode just before the cutie chestnut gate incident. She might not even know what Ethan did. You know what I mean? She probably doesn't even know.
thing original himself. It's always been attacking others. And now others are turning him into the lolcow that he thought he made others into. And he doesn't like it one bit. But what goes around comes around, doesn't it, Ethan? It's come around to you. Like, this is a guy who, like, if you say something negative about him, he will, like, track down your former hairdresser and interview them for 3 hours. He's someone who deserves no grace from anyone. And the fact that he's trying to play a victim now, when he's done what he claims is being done to him, except for real, he's done it to other people 1,000 times over. No, fuck you. He was never funny. He never made funny videos. He doesn't deserve a single cent that he has from any of this. In a just world, Ethan and Hila Klein would be working in the mines, or they would be like wearing like a hot dog costume in a mall or something and trying to sell you vouchers for 15% off the local hot dog stand. They wouldn't be fucking like millionaires with a podcast. There's no reason for anyone to watch them, and it's embarrassing for you if you ever did.
Thank you, Bad Empanada. You are incredible. If you enjoyed the content today, we'll be covering more of what's going on in LA tomorrow and the other news, what's going on in Israel. Here is make sure you go and you like and subscribe to Bad Empanada's live channel. Great channel. Thank you, everybody, for all your support. I'll see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I'm sending you over to Vio. Vio's doing something exciting. I don't know what. She's been yelling the entire fucking stream, so tell me what she's been doing. I'll see you all soon. Stay safe out.